He's so bright. I really thought I had it. I really thought I had it today. I really did. I was like...
Hey, that's pretty good.
That's pretty solid. That's pretty solid.
It's okay.
3, 2, 1...
Hi.
Go.
Hello.
Hello. It is... I just got a little tickle in my chest right when we... Oh, jeez. I just cleaned out the air filter in here. Wow, what are you going to do? Hey, it is now slightly after 7 p.m. Central Time, slightly after 5 p.m. Pacific Time, and slightly after 8 p.m. New York Time.
Fast math.
And slightly after 6 Mountain Time.
Wherever you are, whenever you are, you are in a video store.
The online space to hang out and talk about movies with friends who love movies as much as you do. For people who miss hanging out at video store counters and talking and browsing for hours. I'm one of your two hosts, Adam Protextor.
And I am your other host, Stephanie Thoreson.
Greetings to you, Pathos. Always
hello, Pathos.
Pleasure to have you here. You might notice a few upgrades to the store, and that's really just because I finally took more time than just getting everything ready. And they're very small upgrades. Clearly we didn't fix the lighting issue, but the sign's back. The sign is now rotating through, and there's a new slide for the sign right now. There it is.
Oh, how about that timing?
How about that timing for watch old episodes to alleviate the burden of you always sharing the link, Pathos. Honestly, I was thinking of you when I did that. As well as the end credits have been corrected so that DK Thunder's name is spelled correctly.
Well.
So we're in a whole new shit. We did some renos with our tax return.
Yeah, that massive tax return that we got. And it looks like it's probably just some regulars, but if you hear a click-clack in the background, that is our pupper. If you hear a boom-boom in the background, that is our kitty.
Ironic, right?
If you hear a vroom-vroom from above, that is our neighbor.
Vacuuming.
Vacuuming.
Pathos, I've joined the haircut club. Finally decided to cut my hair today. Been a long time. That's awesome.
I love that.
If longtime viewers of the show might not recognize me because my hair has gotten so short, but I had to have a symbolic end to quarantine for myself. So, Pathos, I'm glad that you're there, too.
I'll be close behind.
Yeah. Steph got a haircut, but then I think you told me that after mine, you were like, I didn't cut off enough.
I got a haircut, and I was like, you know what? I need new headshots. I need to, be versatile, and then I'm like, chop it off. Like, I get this hair off of my head. Hair holds emotion. It truly does. It holds, shit in it. And you gotta get that, breakups and quarantine and I don't know.
Dang. You're probably right. All that protein, all that energy that just keeps growing out.
It truly does. Google it. / watch any movie about hair having power.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So Google it, but just don't. Google it, but avoid websites that pop up in your results that are actual doctors and scientists.
Oh, well, you can do the whole full spectrum of science and...
pseudoscience.
Yeah.
Magic.
Gold. Realism.
Gold. I think magical realism.
Adventure.
Magic. Gold. Riches.
Animation.
Took me forever to cut it. Damn clippers kept dying on me. So you did it yourself, Pathos. Nice. That's impressive. I would not trust myself to that. I actually have a pair of, I don't know why I say pair. Clippers aren't pairs. Clippers are, that's weird.
It's a colloquial thing.
Really?
A pair of clippers.
Because a clippers is
a pair of scissors.
Right. But a clippers is a zzz.
Yeah, but there are two blades that go like this.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. Well, Vineet, a.k.a. Great Job Nerds, also a regular of the stream, loaned me his clippers about 7 years ago when we were roommates, and I still have them.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Vineet. Okay, so it looks like, I think tonight's going to be kind of a chill evening. Honestly, I'm kind of feeling it. I woke up a little later today, so this is like that sleepy day off wandering into the video store. It looks like it's going to be pretty chill today. What are we going to throw on?
Yeah.
Personally, Steph, we haven't even talked much today.
We haven't.
But I want to say that after the stream, I would love to watch some movies.
Oh, wow. In a shocking twist.
What do you think about that?
I think that sounds great. We watched a lot of movies this week, and I think that that's a pretty nice segue into our first segment.
Sure.
If you want to give an overall breakdown or just...
The spiel I do every week?
Yeah.
Well, we know we've got Pathos here. What up? And by the way, one more comment. Yeah, I've been cutting it myself for years. Used to go to one guy. He retired about a decade ago. Tried a couple. They were awful. Started doing it. Hey, if you, sometimes you got to do it yourself to do it right. I just butchered that idiom. Sometimes to do things right, you got to do it yourself.
Yes. And, I've been cutting my own bangs for years.
Shocking.
It's great.
Well, that's a perfect segue into cutting into the banging first segment of our show. Okay, so you probably know that this show is, we really encourage you to be interactive with us. We would love to see you in the chat. Only rules are don't judge each other for not having seen something. Don't hate on something you haven't seen, and be respectful of differences in opinion. Pretty basic stuff here. Just act like a grown-up. Act like a movie fan, not like a, Reddit teenager. No shade to Reddit. I enjoy Reddit too, but you know what I mean.
Or teenagers.
Yeah, that's right. Or teenagers. I don't know who to group into that. Don't be a poo-poo butt. Be clean butt boy.
Oh.
So the show tends to go through 3 acts. The first act of the show is what did you watch? We want to know what you watched. Please let us know in the chat. We will comment on it if we know about it. We will maybe even recommend a double feature if we like it.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we've never heard of it, as is often the case, we might say to you, what's that? Tell us more about what is that?
What is that?
What is that?
And it's also our longest and most fluid segment, I would say. We just kind of hoppity-bop.
We do. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of the part of the show that is the show, really, which is like, to get meta with it, it's like the new arrivals is the unboxing part because people dig unboxings and we get stuff in and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
The movie club is the kind of anchor of the show that keeps us like on the same page. But the real meat and potatoes of the show is this part.
Yeah.
It's just hanging out and talking about movies and letting tangents and sidebars come up and following them.
Yep.
So anyway, tell us what you watched. We'll tell you what we watched. We'll talk about it. It'll get loosey-goosey. New Arrivals is part 2, as I just mentioned. That is an unboxing part. We're winding down on the shopping, but I do still have a few cool things. We picked up a really great box set from Amoeba Records over the weekend, and I have an embarrassment of riches of tapes because of a friend's fire sale in a VHS group I'm in, which is always weird because you end up with like this giant amount of tapes, and it probably costs, the whole thing probably costs as much as one new release Blu-ray. But it takes up so much more space, so it looks cool.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's going to be time to get one more cabinet, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And then finally, Movie Club, which we've been trying to wiggle our way down the winding road of Hong Kong cinema. A few weeks ago, we started with Enter the Dragon because we all felt like there were a number of viewers who were like, I need to watch more Bruce Lee. Dived in there. But that's an American co-production with Hong Kong. Last week we did Ip Man, which was a Hong Kong Chinese government co-production. And this week we finally did our first bombastic jump into the wild world of pure Hong Kong adrenaline with Hard Boiled. Maybe the best action movie ever made, but we'll get to it. I haven't watched it in years, and I was just like sitting there with my head against the back wall.
Yeah. It was pretty...
We didn't even talk about it at all.
We didn't.
We'll get to it. That's another fun thing. We don't really talk about the movie club pick until we're live. Okay, what up? Oh, hell yeah. Wrapped on Hard Boiled and then turned on You Are in a Video Store. I'm loving the use of the acronym. Normalize it.
Yapes.
Charmin Bear. Yes, a Charmin Bear with a clean booty. That is right. Keep your booty clean when you're in the chat. Wedge, actually I was just mentioning how I had done a few technical upgrades to the show, mostly in terms of our edits and stuff. But one of them was the end credits. I finally put you in you were in the end credits, but I kept glitching and pointing the OBS at the wrong video. The first draft before you'd mixed our song. Now you're properly represented in the end credits as the person who mixed and mastered the theme song to the show. So thank you. And welcome to the show tonight. Sick indeed with 4 C's. When pirates get sick, they get sick with 7 C's. That was just off the top of the dome. Like my joke I made up for you the other night, Stephanie, which is what did the northern British mansplainer say when someone thought he was Irish? Welsh, actually. I fucked it up. Welsh, actually. Okay, Wedge only watched Rain Man.
You're messing up the inflection. That's why the joke never lands.
I don't know how to do a Welsh accent.
No, you just go, Welsh, actually.
Oh, that's why. So I'm the writer, you're the actor. Done. We did it.
There you have it.
Okay. I'm now leaving the video store to do that joke. We just see our little viewer count go, it goes down to like -7 somehow. By the way, I'm going to cover that up because it always puts me in my head. Ilan, who's like our chief creative officer for UltraLoop and kind of runs the show, always tells us don't get caught up in the small things. And I feel like when I don't see that number, I'm vibing with everyone here. When I do, I'm like worried that I'm saying off-putting things and losing us viewers. Anyway, Wedge and Pathos, it's good to have y'all. We haven't even started talking about what we watched, but I did, Stephanie, do something we used to do, which was, I've gotten lazy about this. When the show was newer, I used to pull every movie from the physical copy that we'd watched so we could pass the talking stick back and forth.
Yeah.
And we stopped doing that, but I actually did that this week.
You did?
Uh-huh. Only with 3, because we streamed a lot.
We streamed a lot this week, yeah.
But yes, I did. And
that's exciting.
I know.
Because sometimes it feels so nebulous and sort of like floating. I'm like, right? What did we watch? You do such a good job of like keeping
Well, I keep a list. But I also I keep a list for me and for us, but at the same time, I struggle with, I think I have a little ADD that makes me struggle with object permanence, which might be the reason that I have bought so many movies in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's really hard for, that's why I love libraries, video stores. That's why the show exists. Because it's not that I struggle with object permanence like a baby who forgets that you exist when you cover their eyes. Where am I? But I do struggle to recall movies when I'm not able to look at them.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I think maybe it's also our generation.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to go through streaming because even now, I'll be honest, this shelf, because we had to downsize, this shelf, due to the downsizing, and because it's a shared space, focused more on making it like a nice aesthetic movie shelf. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the brands are next to each other, the box sets are next to each other, because the spines look good doing next to each other.
Yeah.
Not really my personal ideal. Personal ideal is to have it truly video store style by genre and alphabetical.
I mean, that's the way to do it, honestly. If we had the space, that would be
That would be the way to do it. But the point is that sometimes late at night when I'm looking for a movie to watch, I flash back to when I had that big house and I did have it all out, and how easy it was to be like, action, oh yeah, this. And I don't have that, oh yeah, this moment anymore. Because this is all boutique stuff, so I know what's here.
Yeah.
So, object permanence. Anyway.
Also, somebody probably went downsized.
Yeah, the funny thing about this is
what fraction do you think this is?
I have tried to figure that out. Because I looked up a photo recently. Someone in a video group I'm in was like, share your shelf. And I was like, I want to share my old shelf. So I looked up the old photo. I found the one the post says, the caption was, the archives circa 2015. So I know it's 7 or 8 years ago. Or 6 to 7 years ago. Math. And it was the entirety of that old house. It was like the whole wall, floor to ceiling. But there was room for it to grow. I had taken the box set sleeves and made a little display on the bottom shelf. There's definitely not room for it to grow by the time I moved out of that house in 2017. I overflowed that.
Yeah.
So, and then this is mostly net new from the past 2 years. So I would say all in all that this is probably, and that's also not counting the 300 VHS that never left Iowa City. They're in my parents' basement.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. 15, 20%?
Yeah.
This is maybe 20%.
I was going to say 15%.
That's probably fair. Not all of it. Now, the weird thing is, with stupid value and Blu-ray and boutique and all this world, the weird thing is that this 15% probably holds the more value than the other 85%.
Right.
Because the other 85% is all DVDs and tapes that are more common.
Yeah.
But that's the fun stuff. That's the browsing through and being like, oh, a Deep Impact. Whereas I'm not going to proudly display my VHS copy of Deep Impact. But it might be nice to be able to see it, so I remember to watch it once in a while. Deep Impact. Okay, no one. I think that we're going to.
All right, let's move on from. Let's see here. Okay, so we've got Rain Man from Wedge.
We got a Fibonaccios.
Oh,
we got a new viewer.
Hey,
what
what's
up? Welcome.
Welcome.
I love that Fibonacci. I love that handle. Just to let you know, welcome. Pathos, gonna get to your comment in a second here. We're in the portion of our show that is called What Did You Watch? Stephanie and I watched like 10 movies this week.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of went ham. We're gonna talk about those. We'll want to hear what you watched. If you watched any fun movies recently in the past 7 days, or just that you can remember recently. And this is a free-flowing, loopy-doopy section of the show where we just talk about movies, maybe make some recs, double feature ideas, whatever. Okay, so draft day.
Oh, hey, it's
Hey,
Quentin.
Quentin,
Hey.
what up? What up, dude? That's so awesome to have you
That's
here.
so funny. I was like, that's like Quentin's IG handle.
Awesome. Okay, Draft Day is a movie from 2012. Sorry, by the way, this is our screen. Starring Kevin Costner is one of the people in charge of drafting in the NFL, specifically works for the Browns. So instantly like the movie because it's a hometown team. Recommend it if you love sports movies. No actual sports action. That sounds like a really... So 2012, Kevin Costner. I gotta admit, like, I'm thinking of where I was in my life in 2012, in my, like, mid to early 20s, new in Austin.
Yeah.
And I don't think a Kevin Costner movie about an NFL draft would have even made my radar. But that sounds really interesting. Is it at all similar to Moneyball, Pathos? Because I loved Moneyball. We've talked about sports movies on here before, and how like our favorite sports movies tend to be like Whiplash, Speed Racer. Like we don't think of them as maybe
Creed, like the underdog.
No, but like just in the sense that they're not sports movie. Like I think a lot of time when you hear sports, you think of ball sports.
Right.
You think of the baskets, the bases, the foots.
For sure.
But I think that like the structure of the sports movie, the basic like this is a conversation we have a bunch about the skeleton of a genre versus the semantics of a genre. Yeah. I love the skeleton of the sports drama. I love that. And I really liked Moneyball because it was a fun behind the curtain. Kind of Any Given Sunday kind of does that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Similar to Moneyball, but slower paced.
Interesting.
That doesn't surprise me. I feel like Kevin Costner comes onto every set he works on. He's like, all right, guys, we're going to need to add 40 minutes to this movie of Room Tone.
Slow it down.
Slow it down on Kevin Costner. I'm America's quiet, reflective father.
Hold on, I need to look into the middle distance.
Hello, UltraLoop friend. Hello, Grey Knight 654.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. We're in the What Did You Watch portion of the show.
Yes, please drop it in the chat. What did you watch, or your thoughts on what other people watched, as long as they're kind and open-minded and conversational and not judgmental or bullying. Dab. Great. Okay, so Rain Man. Rain Man I've seen one time.
Same.
It's one of those movies that I like constantly like stumble across randomly, whether it's like in a half-price books or just scrolling through what's streaming, and I'm like, I should rewatch that, and then I never do.
Yeah.
So Abby, tell us what you thought.
Yes, actually. Oh man, Grey Knight. What genres of movies do we enjoy the most? It's hard. We're pretty omnivorous.
We are pretty omnivorous. I will say that. Right now we've been watching like Hong Kong and a lot of Asian cinema. I think that we both really enjoy giallo and Italian cinema.
Yeah. So I'd say we're a horror family. I'd say the two biggest genres in this house are rom-coms and horror movies.
I would say so too. Yeah. Yeah, I really love watching horror on VHS, and I really love like comedy, any kind of comedy that kind of goes slightly off the path of what you expect.
We watched like 5 comedies this week
did.
too. Okay.
Comedy.
I'm gonna scroll back. Well, Grey Knight, we will hopefully make some suggestions for new horror. Welcome to the show. I will say that the structure of the show generally is we talk about what we watched, we do some unboxings, then we have a movie club pick. Right now we're doing Hong Kong cinema, but we also do staff picks. And last week, Stephanie's staff pick was one of my favorite movies of all time and one of your favorite horror movies after you'd watched it, which is called Deep Red. So I'll throw out Deep Red as if you're looking for a really new good horror movie. Deep Red.
Yeah.
Deep as in diving, red as in dawn. Okay.
That was good.
Thank you.
Deep as in diving, red as in diving.
Red Dawn is a really stupid movie. Okay, not stupid in a bad way. Okay, let's see here. Oh, and Pathos, yes, Tubi TV. Tubi TV, and then Shudder is a horror exclusive site. Thanks for the alley-oop there, Pathos, on the rec. Okay. Rain Man. Wedge said, thought Tom Cruise was a little annoying, to be honest. Great story, solid story, great 80s film.
Where? Oh.
Right here.
I'm like, where are you reading that?
Kevin Costner for back and to the left, back and to the left, back and to the left. I barely remember that. Okay, so Rain Man.
Okay, Tom Cruise is a little annoying. Great story, solid story, great 80s film.
And Dustin Hoffman was so good. Dustin Hoffman's on fire in that movie. Great Art. Deep Red is 1975. That is the one. Yes, it is exceptionally modern, though.
Yes, it is, for sure.
Very ahead of its time. Which, honestly, I feel like is a theme that comes up is we weirdly contextualize the past in a certain way. But the more movies you watch from the past, the more you realize that ain't shit changed.
Yeah.
The technology just got better.
Yeah.
Like when you're watching like a 20s movie and you say like a dick joke and you're like, oh, right, we're dumb. We've always been dumb.
For sure.
Okay, so Rain Man. We just got hit with a Rain Man reference recently. You were saying you see it everywhere. I was gonna say yes, I see that cover everywhere.
Yeah.
But this movie was a Best Picture winner. It was also a vehicle for two huge stars of the time who
Cruise and Hoffman?
Yes. And I think that this movie was special because at the time, and I'm kind of pulling this out of thin air, but I'm going to say that Dustin Hoffman in the 80s would have been known as kind of an actor's actor. You know, he had done Marathon Man. His first movie was The Graduate. He was always like the actorly presence, whereas Tom Cruise was a blockbuster face. He was a movie star, and there was a difference. He was a Top Gun legend. He was a hunk. He was a movie star. And so I think this movie works so well is because it kind of archetypes what these men were known for in real life in their careers, and it makes Dustin Hoffman the serious, but maybe like in the movie he's got autism, but that is played to make him like respectable but unapproachable, like maybe a serious actor. Whereas Tom Cruise is a con man and a smooth talker like a movie star. I think that's maybe why it was so successful. I don't think that's even intentional. I think it's smart casting, but I think this movie is so ubiquitous because it just struck a chord with so many people, especially back in that movie star culture. It was also one of the movies of the 80s that was still being made as like a serious movie for adults in a time when the blockbuster was really taking over.
Right, yeah. And as Ebert pointed out in a little interview clip we watched last night of how I feel like that's kind of the burgeoning of the time he was addressing in that clip, where he was saying like people weren't necessarily interested in something that was more indie or more
right.
I forget the way he phrased it, but it really
he said that he had a reader ask him what's the best movie of the year or what's a great movie that I should see. And he said, I think Ingmar Bergman's Cries and Whispers is the best film of the year. Right. And they said, I don't think that sounds like it's for us.
Yeah.
What do you think of, and I forget what the one he referenced.
Blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ebert was basically making the point that he was talking about this. That interview was from the summer after 96 because he was talking about Independence Day and Twister.
Right.
And how those movies in particular had forced you into seeing them.
He was saying, kind of to hearken, sorry to interrupt you, I just remembered, he was saying everything became so formulaic that you just dropped the same formula or the same script skeleton into a different context or a different scenario.
Yeah. Which I feel like I'm going to push Ebert back on that a little bit and say that's been happening since the dawn of storytelling. But I see his point. I think his point is that the marketing the marketing force behind something like Independence Day, whether or not it's the McDonald's tie-in cup or the toy or the commercial or the radio ad for the car dealership that's like, save on these deals are out of this world.
Right.
Whatever it is, it's bullying you into, you better see this movie.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of like how you felt about Game of Thrones. Like you were never into it, but you're like, the whole world is screaming at me to watch this.
It, yeah. And I think that you're totally right that he was more eschewing the idea of like marketing tie-ins, placing that pressure to, like he even said, if you only had time to watch something to the equivalent of if you only had time to watch one movie this summer, you watched two. Like if you were to distill that down,
right?
Because you felt like you couldn't just see one.
You couldn't pick Twister or Independence Day.
Yeah,
and that is ironically full circle. I think back to Rain Man. I think Rain Man kind of did that for the smart adult audience because it was these two big movie stars doing a serious role about brothers. Mm-hmm. It clicks all these boxes.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time since I've seen it. Oh, here we go. Rain Man was a really good sort of the asshole comes around to not being as much of an asshole type movie.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of really good themes of family and the complexities that come along with it. I would really like to rewatch that. And then Grey Knight, yes, Alon and Rez. Rez is one half of Aliens for Humans. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm Adam. Actually, good timing with the little the Instagram thing because you can follow us. I'm Adam or Protextor.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Stephanie or Flock of Schmeagles.
We should probably get a little. Do you think we should get a little like newscaster lower third cryons here that have our names and handles?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do that as hosts. Rain Man, though, real quick.
Well, hold on. Let's just give a little more of an intro.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so
here's my social media.
Right, I'm Adam Protextor. I'm a rapper and filmmaker and one half of Baby Lion, which is a company with Stephanie that produces fun content. One of those pieces of content being this show, which we broadcast with our friends on UltraLoop.
Yes, and I am Stephanie Thoreson. I'm a comedian, writer, and actor. And also the other half of Baby Lion, and you are in a video store. Yeah, I feel like we consume content, we produce content, we love talking about movies, and Shudder. If you want to go on Shudder and watch a horror movie, I actually am in a horror movie that's on Shudder.
Check this out.
I said that in the weirdest sentence structure.
Oh man, check this out.
You should Shudder.
Boom.
Really,
check out this manifestation. You can go on Shudder and watch this movie Scare Package that Stephanie is in, getting her head blown up. Yes. Very fun anthology horror movie from a few years ago. Yes, and Newscaster, co-sign of the Newscaster. I think we should cry on it. Like, you know, I feel like other people do that. We're such noobs in so many ways.
I know.
We're like, whatever.
Let's just turn the camera on and tell. Okay.
Right, exactly. What up, Holden Walk? We're just getting started.
Hello.
Yes, it's on Shudder for free. Grey Knight. Thanks for your curiosity there. Appreciate you reaching out. Yeah, and then on the Rain Man tip, I wanted to say like, I think that it resonated because of those adult themes. But it also made it really easy to parody because of like especially because of Dustin Hoffman's performance being so singular. Yeah. And I think that it's also one of those things, like, that was an era, 80s and 90s was particularly, like, the reference comedy being, like, peaking.
Right.
Anyway, that being said, we saw a direct reference to this in The Hangover. We watched The Hangover.
We did.
And, I don't know if I didn't point this out at the time, but when, Bradley Cooper and Zach Galifianakis are descending to do the blackjack ripoff scam. Mm-hmm. They're wearing the suits of the characters.
Oh.
So Zach Galifianakis is
little
dressed.
Visual ref?
Yeah, it's a visual quote.
I did not know.
Mm-hmm, so it's a direct reference there. And the movie Due Date, which is Zach Galifianakis and Robert Downey on a road trip, is the movie that Todd Phillips made between the first two Hangover movies. And is very much this like angry odd couple vibe that gets into serious territory about needing to be accepted and family. And it is kind of my secret belief that Todd Phillips really just wants to remake Rain Man.
Oh, okay. I love that.
So I think that like you can...
That was very cute. That was a very cute breakdown.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I do want to mention on the tip of Hoffman, and being an actor's actor and how he sort of epitomizes that, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, very...
The process.
The process. If you... Okay, just quick, you know, save it in your phone notes for birthday or Christmas. Something that I really want that is getting harder and harder to find, I believe, unless they reissued it, is Inside the Actor Studio. Dustin Hoffman's Inside the Actor Studio is one of my favorites. Within 2 minutes, he's just in tears with James Lipton talking about his childhood. And you can really see how he takes, like, all of this just deep well of, like, empathy and pain and like, wonder towards the world, and just accesses that shit.
I was obsessed with Dustin Hoffman in high school.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Are you ready?
Let's see.
This thing you hate. Favorite Dustin Hoffman role?
Gosh, I don't know. It's so funny you said that, and literally the only thing that came to my mind was Hook, and I know that's
totally great answer if it's true.
I mean, I'm just
that's where your heart's at. I know mine, but also I have a feeling that as soon as I say mine, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is I feel like I really enjoy his performance as Hook because it's such brilliant character acting, and it's such a beautiful blend of, like, comedy and, like, true performance, like, grounded character performance. But I'm also, like, totally blanking on his oeuvre.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and say mine is Tootsie.
Tootsie! Oh, see, that's another great example of, like, really leaning into a character. And...
Well, when you said that he pulled from this well of empathy and that he was in tears, what I first thought was Tootsie because he apparently, like, he gets emotional anytime he talks about Tootsie because it, like, taught him so much about what it's like to be a woman in the world.
He seems to have a very tender heart.
I think so. I love that Holdenwick's answer is Sphere. I love that Wedge. Meet the Fockers. We got a hook and a Meet the Fockers. Which, by the way, is another great... We watched Neighbors as well this week. Mm-hmm. And in Neighbors, one of my favorite dumb little writing jokes is that they're having a Robert De Niro party and that Dave Franco is him from Meet the Parents, but he says he's him from Meet the Fockers. It's really love...
It's such a smart, subtle...
like, way of pointing out how the character's just too young. Like, the older characters are like, wait, no, it's Meet the Parents from Meet the Fockers.
And he does a pretty decent...
It's pretty decent. It's an incredible De Niro.
It's good.
It's a great De Niro. I can't do it.
You gotta... Like, I can't do it.
It kind of, like, makes a...
It's not working.
Okay. Well, if you are just joining us, we'd love to hear what you watched.
Yes, let us know.
I'm going to pull up what we watched. Sorry.
Yeah. No, if you're just joining us or you haven't already let us know what you watched this week, we are in the What Did You Watch portion of our show. This portion of the show just sort of is a free-form discussion, open forum, very interactive, so feel free to go off on tangents or drop your thoughts about what you watched or we watched or anyone watched.
Or they watched.
Or you watched.
Or
we
someone
watched. Or
could be watched.
You watched. Or that you watched another time.
I have stuff
that you will watch.
Or that you will watch. Or your watch. I have a few things we watched.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
We have a long list.
We do, but we can kind of plow through it. Let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is one we already mentioned, which is Hangovers. Mm-hmm. The Hangover. I mean, I just read Neighbors as I was saying Hangover. The Hangovers. So we watched, let's just do these two back to back, because this one I watched on my own. So we watched Hangover 1 and Hangover 2.
Was that all this week?
This was all this week.
Oh my.
Yeah, we watched a lot. Because Avalon, remember I finished Avalon right before we went live last week?
Yeah, we also did a lot of double trippy features this week.
We did. Well, it was our anniversary weekend.
Mm-hmm. So we were like, let's just eat chicken wings and watch movies for 3 days straight.
Yeah, pretty much. We did actually go out for the first time in a year and a half on Thursday night once we were fully vaccinated to a karaoke bar down the street. And I think that we were so sticker shocked at what it cost to go out to a bar that we stayed in for the rest of the weekend.
Not only sticker shocked, but full-blown anxiety shock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have social anxiety. Oh yeah, I have generalized anxiety.
Karaoke was fun, though.
Yeah.
The first time I've held a mic and performed on stage in front of people in like 2 years. It was awesome. What do tigers dream of when they take a little tiger snooze? It's a Hangover quote.
What's the answer?
I don't know. It's a quote from The Hangover.
What is the answer?
Well, we watched The Hangover Part 1 and Part 2. What can be said about Part 2? It's basically a remake of Part 1 with everything dialed up. Now, I remember when Hangover 2 came out, the people didn't like it because it wasn't funny anymore. I personally was one of the people who liked it a lot because it decided to pivot fully into dark territory and the dark side of the comedy from the first one. That said, having watched it as a cis straight white male in 2011 versus 10 years later, we talked a lot about how so much of Hangover 2 is wildly uncomfortable with its just Asian stereotyping and transphobia.
For sure.
It's really unfortunate that it leans on that so hard.
Yeah, and this is the first time I've seen Hangover 2. It's like the third time I've seen Hangover 1. But I definitely, as soon as it was over, I was like, okay, that movie was pretty racist.
The second one?
Yeah.
And the weird...
They just lean so hard into othering anyone that isn't white, and while simultaneously centering everyone that is white within the narrative. And it's like...
Also, even their opportunities to interact with people who... What is that?
I don't know. Hello? Little kitchen gremlin.
I know. Weird. Big Bang. Even the opportunities for characters that did not need to be white characters are. There's a tattoo parlor they end up in. Mm-hmm. The guy who runs the tattoo parlor, this tattoo artist that they run into, why he just happens to be a white American expat working there.
Yeah.
He didn't need to be.
Yeah.
But every single Thai character that they interact with is either a part of the wedding party, or a stereotype of the city.
Yeah.
Which is, Wedge said, Abby says, it's really uncomfortable. Yeah, it is, and it's unfortunate because the cast is so good of these movies. Ed Helms, Zach Galifianakis, Bradley Cooper, those three guys, and Ken Jeong. Even though Ken Jeong is doing some regrettable character work, those four guys, especially Bradley Cooper and Zach Galifianakis' buddy relationship, is genuinely charming and very well acted. And I think that in the hands of lesser talented or less likable actors, this movie would very much be exposing itself a lot more.
That's what I was going to say is first of all, for Ken Jeong, it's you have to contextualize what kind of roles were available and what kind of representation existed, and that's a whole different conversation in and of itself. But I was definitely on the same page as you, thinking without this cast, without this caliber of comedic talent, this movie, I think, for me, would be virtually unwatchable. Mm-hmm. I think I would have, just turned it off.
That's fair. Now, there's the first one. Now, the first one, I feel like I still probably am stuck in some sort of parts of the problematic aspects of it are normalized to me because of the young age I saw it at. Because when we watched it this time, I thought, okay, for the most part, this movie is good, clean fun about... it's a fantasy about what if you went totally crazy with your bros, but it kind of exists in this space where it can be a fantasy without ever feeling dangerous because no one's ever really hurt, no one's ever really heartbroken. They never really do anything evil or cruel. It's just reckless.
Yeah.
The second one, they cross over into property destruction and actually hurting people.
Yeah, losing a finger, getting a face tattoo.
The face tattoo bit is hilarious.
The face tattoo bit stresses me the fuck
The face
out.
tattoo bit is a good bit that is unproblematic. The first one should not have had Mike Tyson in it. I will say that. That is the part that honestly weirds me out the most, is how friendly he is given his given that he has had credible rape charges brought against him and assault charges, and maybe find a different celebrity cameo. But
I didn't know that.
on that note, Mel Gibson was kept out of the second one by Zach Galifianakis for similar reasons. Right. So where are we drawing the lines on this? Also, there's a lot of sexism in the first one in terms of, if you think about in the second one, who are the Asian characters? In the first one, who are the female characters?
I do think that the first one doesn't... I feel like with a lot of comedies of that era, there are certain things, like we always kind of try to say on the stream, like watch things considering the context.
Right.
I do think that one falls more in line with like, oh, that just feels like ignorant shit of the time. Like, you know?
I really watching Hangover 2, completely see everyone's criticisms of it, completely do not think it aged well. In watching the first one, other than a few regrettable lines like paging Dr. F word and stuff like that, if you remove the jokes there are a few jokes in Hangover that are straight up homophobic.
Yeah.
They're unfortunate lines in the script. And maybe that's me euphemizing them. Maybe I shouldn't call them unfortunate. It's fucked up that they're in there. If you remove them, at its heart, you have a pretty fun buddy comedy that isn't really doesn't have hate in its heart.
I agree. And again, a lot to be said for the actors. Yeah,
totally. Like Bradley Cooper and Zach Galifianakis and Ed Helms are all likable, and the first one way more than the sequels with Bradley Cooper especially makes him soft in a secret way, where he's clearly
he's a family man. He's the family man.
He is.
Of the group. Yeah.
I think in the first one, it's so clear that like the person he's being out wild in the world is the mask he's wearing, and in the second one they try to reverse that and say no, the mask is the family man. But in the first one, it works because he's putting on a show to be the cool macho guy, but at the end, after all of it's done, when he's like, they're reminiscing, there's kids asleep on him. Yeah. It's like, oh, this guy's not a bad guy.
No. Real quick, Grey Knight, I do want to say, like, absolutely, throw some horror questions our way. 100%. And for anyone joining us, welcome. You are in a video store. We are discussing what we watched this week. This segment is very tangential, so let's just open forum, talk.
Let's tangent it.
Drop some questions in the chat if you'd like. And Holden Wook, you just got me thinking about how we're fully vaxxed and could go to a movie theater soon.
Let's do it.
And I just got like teary-eyed.
By the way, good prompt, Holden Wook. Yes. So, movie theater experiences for comedies where people were just losing their mind. There's 3 that come to mind for me. One is Austin Powers 2, which I saw in junior high with a theater that was just losing its mind. The second is not Borat, but Bruno, which I saw as one of the first movies I saw in Austin. Again, people just lost their minds for it. And 3 is Anchorman. I think is probably the rowdiest theatrical experience I've ever had. What are yours?
All right. Horror. I was wondering, what do you look for? The scares, the gore, the psychological twist? That's a great question.
Yeah.
That is a great question. I can tell you that things that feel very grounded and rooted in reality and psychological probably scare me the most, or that feel existential. The thing I probably really like watching, we love anthologies.
Yeah, anthologies are always fun.
I love the Child's Play.
Yep, that's yours.
You can have some. But I love like practical effects, and I love horror from like the 80s.
Yeah. I will co-sign that that's my favorite. Creature or gore or practical driven effects movies from the 80s are my favorite kind of horror. But I think a really interesting thing about horror as a genre is that horror is kind of all genres. I firmly believe that horror's place in society is like this barometer for what the fears of our time are and how we want to express what's going on in our heads. Mm-hmm. So classic horror tends to be things that are more societal dangers, like Dracula is sexual danger, scary men. Frankenstein is, parable about playing God. Dr. Jekyll's substance abuse, etc. But then as you move into maybe like the 70s, you end up with all this like weird cult stuff, and you can see the stress of the Vietnam War wearing on people. The 80s, I think, are when horror movies become blockbusters as well, and they tend to center around the nuclear family being in jeopardy, because I think it's a time in which America had just gotten through so much like cynicism in the 70s that they were like Poltergeist, a great example. I also think that horror movies are inherently political for that reason. Poltergeist, for example, is an incredibly political movie, and oftentimes slept on. So it's hard to answer this question because I think horror really is everything.
Yeah.
But if I'm picking my faves, it would be, and why I watch them. I watch some because I don't think it's going to be good, but the effects look amazing, and that's going to keep me really entertained and happy. And then there's, I love being genuinely scared. I'm very desensitized to on-screen horror, so if a movie can really unnerve me, I'm like a fan.
Yeah.
That's what Pulse did.
I was
for
about
me.
to say, to speak to that directly, last month one of our movie club picks was Pulse, and that movie scared the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is the first movie I can remember seeing since Hush that actually had me, like, you know, like, looking through my, you know, just sort of really on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
And by edge of my seat, I mean crunched into the back of the couch, like, shaking.
Yeah, that movie's so good.
It's so good. So scary.
Deep Red creeps me out too.
Deep Red Giallo's amazing as well, yeah.
The Grey Knight, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that horror is kind of just like, I think horror is like a human genre. It's not really, you know, there's a lot of genres that are tied to time, place, country, industry. Gangster movies were huge in Hollywood in the 30s because we were coming out of Prohibition. Sword fight, sorcery, ghost movies were huge in Hong Kong in the 70s and 80s because they were based on Chinese myths. Giallo was popular in the 70s in Italy because they liked the horror movies that were coming out of the U.S., but they wanted to ratchet up the violence to make that Skrilla, you know, off cheap theaters.
Yeah. But
horror is evergreen. Horror is everywhere all the time. Every country, every era has its horror, from the silent film now to now. I love horror that leaves me. I like during the horror movie I don't get scared, but overall I get thinking the next night. If it sticks with you, yes.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think Pulse did that for me.
Yes.
Because Pulse is about depression. So like,
yeah.
it hurts.
Oh boy, it is like, ooh, you feel it in your bones. And Wreck too is really scary.
Wreck's so good.
It's so good.
I made a list recently because there was a challenge on Twitter that was like 4 horror movies that actually scared you. And I think for me it's Wreck, Pulse, Thesis, I think was the one. Thesis, it's a Spanish movie by the guy who did Open Your Eyes. It's really good, really tense. But honestly, and this is not me trying to sound... When I worked at a video store for real, people would say, what's the scariest movie of all time? And I would say, I'm not trying to be pretentious or be like silent films, but Nosferatu is the scariest movie ever made. I challenge you, even the most jaded modern horror viewer, to turn off every light in your house and turn off and watch the entirety of Nosferatu alone in the dark.
Yeah.
It is so fucking scary.
Yeah, and, you know, the first time I watched Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, I was terrified. So, I mean, it's
I don't know what I'm doing. I was trying to be the sleepwalker, the somnambulist.
And if you want to check on our archives, in October we did theme weeks. Here we go, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari right here. Our archives on YouTube, in October we did theme weeks, and we did all sorts of fun different breakdowns of different types of horror and different genres, subgenres within horror. And I did a deconstruction of slasher films and how they relate to feminism and second wave feminism. So
it's
check
really
that
good.
out.
It was like one of the first great moments on this stream, I think.
Oh,
seriously.
Ew.
I think it was one of the first moments where I was like, "Oh, we got something here. That was really cool."
Oh,
nice. Nice. Yeah, Pulse, Nosferatu. Pulse from 2001. It was remade. I can't speak to the quality of the remake, but 2001. It's the Japanese version. Is just so well done. And Wreck, which REC, as Wedge put it, Record. It's a found footage horror movie from Spain that's just so freaking scary.
And I briefly touched on this, but Hush did also scare me deeply.
Yes. But you're more scared of the intimate, like, the knife, the man with the knife.
I think
doesn't need to be dressed up for you.
I don't think this is a spoiler. I think one of the things that is scariest about Hush is that within the first, I'd say, 10 minutes of seeing the killer, he has on this very well done, very scary, disturbing mask. And you think, oh dang, this is like, whoa. And then within the first 10 minutes of the plot unfolding, he takes the mask off, and the entire time you just see this guy like acting his ass off as like a psychotic killer in an isolated kind of secluded setting where there's like no escaping, and it is so scary.
It's
to see
way scarier.
His face.
It's way scarier just to have it be a guy.
And that has some really, really good / bad jump scares for me, at least.
Yeah. I barely remember the
window
jump
moment.
scares.
I'll just say the window moment scared the shit out of me.
That's a spoiler.
That's not a spoiler.
Now he's going to be watching it, looking for the windows the whole time.
Well, then forget I said that.
I watched it. Well, we'll get to it. I think that if you watch enough movies, even the smallest thing can accidentally be a spoiler. I say this because I just watched Army of the Dead, which I'll get to in a second, and I knew how it ended because someone used one word to describe it on Twitter.
Wow.
And I was very mad that I read that tweet.
Sound like...
Wow. People were dressing up as Borat and everything. I want to scroll back up here.
Oh, yeah, let's check out the top.
Okay. Bruno in theaters. The Ring had people freaking out. People were yelling. I remember that. This is why I ended up dating my high school girlfriend. Shout out Laura, who I went to prom with. Our first date was The Ring, and the reason we started dating and became a couple was because neither of us were afraid of it, and everyone else in the movie theater was like freaking out and getting up and leaving and screaming. And when it was over, she and I were like, that was really good. I do not know why people were afraid of it. Like, it just didn't get us. It wasn't that we were cooler or whatever. Maybe we were just in date mode, so it didn't matter. But something about it, like, we bonded over the fact that we were like, that was good. I do not know why everyone was freaking out.
Yeah.
Such a good movie. I love that The Ring is directed by the guy who did the Pirates movies, too.
I also just love people were yelling.
People were yelling. I was one of those people. Avengers Endgame for pathos. Yeah, I mean, that was fun. We talked about that last time. Mm-hmm. And then Holden Wook saw Borat at the Campus 3 downtown. That was like the cool downtown theater where all the like not quite mainstream movies went. Like that's where I saw Kill Bill and Aqua Teen. Never heard of Borat before, so I had no idea what you were walking into. People were dressed up walking in. It was insane.
Wow.
Half the audience was standing around. That's amazing.
That's so wonderful.
That sounds so fun. And Holden Wook goes on to say, I like horror that makes me suspicious of the inanimate objects in my bedroom. That's Poltergeist. And then Wedge, The Descent, The Ring, Quarantine, and Funny Games. Interesting that I never saw Quarantine. That's the American remake of Wreck. That's scary. I know nothing about it, honestly. I was such a Wreck fan, I never bothered.
I've never seen Funny Games.
Oh, Funny Games. I want to watch Funny Games tonight, but it's like I don't want to do that to you either. Funny Games is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Fun, quick thing about Funny Games is there's the original Funny Games from 97, and then there's their remake from 2008, but they are shot for shot, line for line, identical, with the changing of only the actors and the language. Mm-hmm. Because originally Michael Haneke wanted to make it for American audiences, but couldn't afford to shoot it overseas, so he made it in German first. Mm-hmm. So I personally prefer the remake because it's the same movie, but with Tim Roth and Naomi Watts. So I'm hurting for them a little bit more because I like them as actors already. Mm-hmm. Anyway, good stuff.
That's good.
And High Tension. High Tension's great.
I was trying to think of a good theater memory, and the only thing that's really like immediately coming into my mind is seeing the movie Drumline when I was in Drumline with the entire Drumline.
That's amazing.
It was great.
That sounds fair. I saw Drumline in theater as well.
You did?
Yeah. I saw it as a.
But were you in the drum line?
No, but
with the drum line.
No, but Holdenwook was. I think you guys actually had that.
Oh, I think
both.
Last year on the stream, I think we bonded over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh.
Japanese versions are always amazing, hands down. Yes, J-horror kicks ass. I love that you guys have that same.
And I forgot, Holdenwook, you played the quads, right? Do I have a good memory, or am I completely off base?
I think you're right.
Tenor quads?
Yes!
All right, baby bass, 20-inch.
I love that. Well, thank you, Grey Knight. Yeah, we were a cute couple. That was my first heart-crushing breakup, but we were young. We were so young.
Aww. Remember that feeling of being in a movie when you're like, oh
I remember
God, our parents dropped us off?
No. We drove there. I had a license by then, and I drove there, and I remember in the car we talked about if we were religious because a lot of our friends were, and we both identified as agnostic. And I remember being like, oh dang, because it was like rare. Mm-hmm. I remember that we were both agnostic, that we both wanted to get the same thing for dinner, and that neither of us were afraid of the ring, and that was like enough to keep us dating for 6 months and go to prom together.
I love that.
Okay, it was Wedge says about Funny Games, it was a perfect film, and I never want to watch it again.
Okay, that's probably where I will land. It sounds like one of those one and done kind of...
It's back here somewhere. Here, it's right in here.
Yeah, I was completely turned around. Quack, quack, my duckies!
Quack, quack!
Ducks fly together. I was turned around trying to browse the horror section earlier, and then I was like, you know what?
Do it, browse it.
People don't want to see that again.
Funny Games. Great job, nerds. You've seen Funny Games, I think. I do. I actually have a really...
Such a good... I'm sorry. This is just such a good collection.
Oh, thank you. It's curated.
It is curated.
Funny Games. I remember, and I'm not going to spoil anything because I feel like the less you know about it, the better it is. But there is a moment in Funny Games, and I think you guys, if you've seen it, you know. No need to name it, but we know the moment, right? At which this movie really surprises you. And I remember getting to watch, in college, I was over at a girlfriend's place, and her roommate, who was a dude, who was kind of a bro dude, who didn't really watch that many movies, he was watching it, and he thought it was a regular-ass horror movie, and when that moment came, he got really upset with the movie, and I remember thinking, like, you've done it, Mr. Haneke, you've done it.
Okay, but no spoilers, because I haven't seen Funny Games.
No spoilers, we should watch that. A favorite Japanese horror movie? Honestly, Pulse. Yeah, it's my favorite.
That's my favorite.
If you want to go back, though, in time, a really fun one. A really, really fun. I don't have it on Blu-ray, so it's in a box. Hausu is my favorite.
Oh yeah.
It's Hausu or House. But Hausu, you're more likely to find it because there's also an American horror franchise called House. Hausu. I'm sure that anyone in the chat who's seen it will co-sign this. This is the most bonkers, experimental, weird-ass horror movie of all time.
It's great.
Oh my god. Maybe my favorite. It's my favorite movie. Pathos says favorite J-horror is Audition, which is like also a masterpiece.
Very unnerving. Very unnerving.
Oh, and Wedge watched Funny Games at Great Job Nerds recommendation. Pulse is on the 2021 Wheen list.
Wheen.
Dan Paul.
Who's Dan Paul?
I don't know. I have to search it.
American Attorney.
I don't know. Maybe? I have no idea who that is. I don't know who Dan Paul is. But welcome to the Stream Chronicide. Yes. Man, I really would like to rewatch Funny Games. We need to add that to the list.
For sure.
Okay, so we watched a lot. Let's keep banging it through.
And also, if you're just joining us, this is the portion of the stream where we talk about what we watched this week. So feel free to drop in the chat what you watched, or follow the fun with us and just chat openly about movies. And welcome, Great Job Nerds.
Yes.
I said quack quack, and then I was like, I didn't actually.
No, I feel like quack quack was a greeting.
Quack quack.
That's very cute. Yeah, this show is supposed to be very interactive. We like it when you're in the chat. The only real ground rules are don't hate on a movie you haven't seen, don't hate on each other for a difference in opinion, and what was the other one? That's pretty much it.
I mean, it's just like generally don't be an asshole. Like, you're more than welcome, obviously, to have opinions and we can discuss and disagree, but, you know.
The Crime of the Century on HBO.
Crime of the Century on HBO?
Okay, we'll check that out.
Put a pin in that.
Put a pin in that
I've
one.
not heard.
Thank you, Chronicide. Because we finished some HBO shows actually yesterday, or the day before, we drove to the 6 Feet Under house in LA.
We did.
One of our first pilgrimages.
Just to see it.
It's great to be a movie fanatic. Feels like you never run out of movies. That's true. That's the purpose of this. Hopefully this show will never run out of steam because, honestly, I even said that to Steph the other day. I was like, every time we do this show, I end up wanting to watch about 20 movies, and then I'm so frustrated that I don't have the time. Mm-hmm. But it's better that I will never run out of things.
Yeah.
Opioid doc. Very dark and sad.
Oh.
Okay. Well, then, if he is a lawyer, a sports lawyer connected to the opioid crisis, it is probably a safe space to hate on him, yes. Great job, nerds. Easy Rider. Have you seen Easy Rider?
You know what? I don't know.
I was obsessed with this movie in high school. I, straight up had the soundtrack on CD and would mow my lawn every Saturday while listening to the soundtrack on my CD Walkman.
This is your lawn.
My Discman. This is my Discman.
Mow my lawn.
This is my Discman. I was just off. I would mow my lawn. Look, my grandpa got my dad a rider mower because he was a farmer and thought we needed it. We didn't, but it made mowing the lawn really nice. So I'd go out there and put the Easy Rider soundtrack on my Discman.
That's nice.
And mow the lawn.
Your Discman.
I love this movie. I love that Peter Fonda's Captain America in it. I love the tagline. I was texting with you about this, Vinny, but I love that the tagline is two men went looking for America and couldn't find it anywhere. I love how cynical it is. It's truly encapsulates the death of the 60s in a really perfect way.
I don't think I've seen it. I mean, obviously I know of it and I've seen it, you know? I seen it.
It's very much about
not seen it.
The freewheeling spirit of the 60s, experimenting with sex, drugs, love, civil rights. It's very much about that, trying to pursue that free America on the road and at every turn being stalwarted by rednecks, powers that be, cops. It's made in 1969. It's very much about here ends the great dream. You can tell why so many 70s American movies are so sad and violent.
Yeah.
Because everyone had just lost hope.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, where are our losing hope gritty dramas now? How come we're just making stupid reality shows? Come on. Where's the new 70s?
We'll get there. I think as we emerge from this, we'll see a lot of
I agree that Nicholson steals the show. Reb Brown is the true Captain America. I love that movie, the first Captain America from 1975 with Reb Brown. It's so silly. I love it. Tap water hurts your throat. I don't know where you are, but buy some Dasani. Man, Easy Rider. I'm still trying to do the double feature thing, too, where we
oh, yeah.
try and recommend a double feature. Easy Rider, I feel would go along with 5 Easy Pieces or some other thing that Dennis Hopper did.
Near Seattle.
Okay. Reb Brown is a gem. Reb Brown is a gem. Like a good old boy. In a genuine sense. Okay, I watched Rush Hour, everybody. I'm just going to keep going through the list of stuff I watched.
Yeah, we watched a lot of movie this week. We watched a lot of movie this week.
I watched Rush Hour streaming. It's okay. I honestly don't really remember much of it. I put it on late. That's one thing. It's got some good Jackie, but not the best Jackie. It's definitely watered down Jackie. Chris Tucker is a comic genius, but I feel it's two incredible talents that should have been in a movie with a director who knew how to show them off a little bit more. That said, I understand why it's so popular. I had a fun time. It kind of flies by. But it's just kind of it's just kind of we've talked about this in the show before, that there's a lot of pressure nowadays with social media and with Letterboxd and star ratings to feel you're supposed to either love or hate everything.
Oh, to feel like, more or less indifferent about something? Yeah.
Rush Hour is just like, it's fine. It's solid.
It's fine. Solid.
It's inoffensive.
That's the word we kept using when we were discussing this. Solid. Fine.
Yeah.
Meh.
Wedge says, Rush Hour, racist but fun. It was definitely racist. Favorite Rush Hour moment is from the second and the bloopers. Guy gets launched out a window. Damn, he ain't gonna be in Rush Hour 3.
I have not seen Rush Hour since it came out.
Really?
Yeah.
Since the 90s?
Yeah.
This is a 90... it's funny how little I think of this movie as a 90s action movie, too. Like, it weirdly feels like it belongs to the 2000s.
It really does. It does.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's kind of the sheen that's on it, the way it's paced and edited.
I think it is, yeah.
It doesn't feel like it... Like last week, we were talking about how a lot of 90s action movies are... Yes, they're being very formulaic, but they're making up for the formula by giving you time to live with the characters, so it doesn't matter if it's formulaic or you know what's going to happen because you care about the people. Rush Hour feels like we're entering the next phase of like, what's the gimmick? Get to the point.
Yeah.
We don't really care about these characters as people as much.
You want the action and the jokes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what they represent.
Yeah.
The actors, Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan do not represent like down on their luck cops trying to make it work. They represent action and jokes. I want to watch Shanghai Noon again, particularly because a company called Eureka is putting out a movie from Sammo Hung, Jackie's old partner, called Millionaire Express, which is like a 90s version or early 90s Hong Kong version of Shanghai Noon. And in the sense that it's a kung fu western. And I really want to pick it up and watch it and then watch Shanghai Noon. But, good on Jackie for becoming an international superstar one way or another. Dang, family staple 40 times. Well, there you go.
Wow.
Very watchable. If I was going to double feature Rush Hour with something, I would say, I don't know. Dang, I don't even know. Rumble in the Bronx feels too easy. Jackie Chan's First Strike. I just want to watch Jackie Chan movies.
No one can blame me for that.
No. There's a really fun movie called Red Sun from the 70s that is directed by the guy who did From Russia with Love, Terrence Malick. Not Terrence Malick. Terrence.
Like what?
Terrence. Sorry, not Terrence Malick. Terrence Fisher. And
My dad.
My dad. And it stars. God, let's see if I can do this. Charles Bronson, Toshiro Mifune, and Ursula Andress, who was the first Bond girl. And it is a samurai in the Wild West. It's called Red Sun, and it is Charles Bronson versus Toshiro Mifune, samurai versus cowboy. It's awesome.
Oh, that sounds really fun.
I think that would be a really good double feature, or a good double feature with Shanghai Noon, even though samurai versus Hong Kong cop, obviously different, but it's really good. Yes, Red Sun. That was my reaction when I learned that this movie existed as well. Great job, nerds. I watched it and was not disappointed. It's great. It's called.
Watch that.
I would love to. It's been a while. It's called Red Sun, as in the red sun that's in the sky. Blue Streak. Birthday moment for my friends. Got me a VHS copy of Blue Streak. I love that pathos. I hope that you still have all 4. Wedge. Well, I see. The thing is, no one talks about it. I think I came across it because I was reading some I don't know how I came across it. I think it was mentioned as a footnote, like this samurai western. And I was like, what? It's great. I don't know how available it is. Might be on Tubi. Okay. We watched. Dang, some good stuff. I'll just dive into the ones I watched real quick, and then okay. So I watched a movie called The Heroic Trio. Trying to keep it on the Hong Kong tip. This movie is Anita Mui, Maggie Cheung, and Michelle Yeoh. Anita Mui I'm less familiar with. She's a pop star in China. Maggie Cheung was Miss Hong Kong, as the box credits her. She's also in a lot of Wong Kar-wai's movies, including Lead and In the Mood for Love, which she's probably best known for. And Michelle Yeoh, obviously, is Michelle Yeoh, a movie star sensation. This movie was awesome. It's called The Heroic Trio, directed by Johnny To. It's basically 3 female superheroes, including one named Wonder Woman, no relation, Invisible Girl, and Thief Catcher. And I thought this was going to be like a medieval, like sword and sorcery kind of thing, but it's actually a modern superhero movie set in 90s Hong Kong. Weirdly, like Hard Boiled, has a whole plot about babies needing to be taken out of a hospital, although this one goes to a really dark spot in that there's like an evil underlord who's kidnapped several babies, and towards the end of the movie the babies are found, but they are too far turned towards being demons, and so the heroes throw grenades at them. Like, you have to... I
mean, I will say...
It's weird.
This movie seems really rad, though.
It's so good, but it's got some weird choices in terms of, like, okay. Fun thing about this, though, is I'll just spoil one of the new arrivals. There was a trailer on this that was like, if you like the Heroic Trio, get ready for the sequel. And this is the sequel to the Heroic Trio. Same sort of box design and everything. Called Executioners. Same cast, same vibe, and same director.
Did you hear that?
I can hear some click-clacks.
You don't think the cat's in the kitchen cabinet, do you?
I don't know. You want to check? Do you want to quickly check, or should I?
Oh, no. There's little feet.
I think it's just upstairs.
Okay.
So, Executioners is a sequel, and I saw a trailer for it at the beginning of Heroic Trio. And it's the first time this ever happened to me, where I watched a movie, loved it, and then immediately ordered the sequel. Anyway, good stuff. Michelle Yeoh acts circles around everyone in Star Trek Discovery.
Bringing it back to Star Trek Discovery.
Nice. And Grey Knight, real quick, horror movie with a good plot, but not as scary. A scary movie with no plot. Personally, I prefer with plot. The Uninvited was a great movie. The Uninvited is a great movie. I think plot and character are always important to me, but if you've got a bunch of cool effects and you're just there to have a good time, then a lot of... for instance, Dead Alive has a great plot, but I'm not watching it for the plot.
Yeah.
I'm watching it to see buckets of blood.
Yeah.
Same with Herschel Gordon-Lewis. I love Herschel Gordon-Lewis. Wizard of Gore, Blood Feast. These movies do not have plots. They are just a bunch of effects strung together. Sometimes that's great. Okay, what else did I watch alone? Okay, and then the only other thing I watched alone... Dang, we watched a lot together this week. Was Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. Which...
Oh, you watched it.
I finished it.
Nice.
I was up late last night finishing.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
It's very, it's very pretty. It's got a lot of really fun moments. Zack Snyder's obviously a talented action director. I don't know if... I feel like these are big, pretty dumb movies, his movies. I was a little taken aback because I saw on HBO that they put out a black and white version of Justice League, which I'd known they wanted to do. Now, I don't know if that is more of the camp of, like, Mad Max, where they always wanted to do it in black and white, and then they had to just release it in color for the studio, but here's the real version, like Mad Max, or if it's more like Logan, where they're like, ooh, black and white seems serious, put it on the Blu-ray, people will like it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the black and white version of Justice League on HBO is called Justice League, Justice is Gray.
Oh, what?
That was my reaction too, Stephanie. And...
Can we get some copywriters in here?
I think that really sums up a lot of the ethos of, like, the Zack Snyder movies, where it's kind of, like, big, like, self-important, very serious, but maybe kind of dumb. Mm. And that's kind of how I felt about Army of the Dead. I had a really good time watching it. It was very watchable. I thought that it was a super cynical movie. I also wondered if maybe, and this is a big spoiler, I don't want to talk about, it's brand new, so I don't want to spoil it too much, but it felt like maybe some of the cynical or sad moments of it, don't worry, I won't say anything bad. Now I know that Zack Snyder sadly lost a daughter a few years ago, and there was a lot of father-daughter stuff, specifically with sacrifice for the daughter, and I wonder if maybe some of the cynicism was Zack Snyder trying to tell the story of, like, I would literally give up everything to have you back. That was kind of a message I got from it. that was moving and personal and was the one thing that really resonated with me about this movie. But a lot of it did feel like we're going to have badasses killing zombies in cool ways while dropping one-liners, and they're, you know, and it's... When the movie was over, I didn't feel like it had much of a point, I guess. It felt like it was setting up a cinematic universe more than anything else, which it probably was. The self-important thing is palpable. It being a Zack Snyder thing is so hyped, I wish it could be a dumb, fun movie. I think that's how I feel. That's it. They're dumb, fun movies that are fucking great. Great, throw it on, have a few beers, or not, have a mocktail, have a good time regardless. But it is the, like, way that they present themselves as important cinematic art, like, moments that is almost, like, distracting. It's like, we don't need all this.
And, okay, like, a little Tig Notaro.
Yeah, Tig was added.
That is...
Chris D'Elia.
Yeah, I was like, who did she replace? That's one of the reasons I'm curious to watch this movie. It's because I love Tig Notaro.
She's great in it, actually. She's great. It's a little weird because, like, you can tell she's digitally replaced. So it's like there's this weird otherness to it.
Oh.
Like, when she's walking and stuff, she's, like, kind of doing this, like, you know, kind of like in the...
Are you sure that wasn't just a choice?
No, I mean, like, it looks like when they de-age people in Marvel, how, like, the face is, like, like, it looks like it's probably the best technology can do, but the human eye can pick up on anything that looks slightly unnatural because we're so used to it.
Yeah.
So it did look a little digital to me, but her performance was great. The adding in was pretty flawless. Yeah, that's funny that I was saying that as you're writing that. I think that it was very, very close to being perfect, but I think I'm just hypersensitive to weird digital stuff like that. Like, I still have a hard time with the first Captain America movie with Scrawny Steve. I still just like squint my eyes through it and I'm like, pretend.
I want to scroll back up to this first cow talk.
Me too. Me too. And then we've only got movies that we've watched together. Can I really quickly spoil it what we watched together and then we'll jump back in?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get to first cow. I need to take a quick bathroom break.
Okay.
I need to use the bathroom. What we watched together, La La Land, which we've been wanting to watch since getting out here. Rewatch. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. We watched, and we're going to start watching through those. Scorsese's After Hours. And then we watched Neighbors 1 and Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. As well as Hard Boiled. So a lot of fun stuff this week. Okay. I'm going to catch up on the first cow discourse on my phone.
Okay.
Whilst I take a pee break.
Okay. Okay, let's see what you got to say about First... Now, what is First Cow? Now, this is a new movie, right? Am I wrong? I'm going to scooch over here. I'm always jealous that Adam can just Google things. First Cow. Yeah, okay, so this is a new drama, screenplay. First Cow. Oh, okay, interesting. Slow-paced, moody, nice soundtrack, sound design. Huh. Okay. My feelings on First Cow is that it was maddeningly slow. It sounds kind of what Great Job Nerds was saying. Like when I was putting on his boots for really 5 actual minutes. I thought the ending was great, but I feel like I'm never gonna go. Oh wow. Okay, great. Okay, a lot of stuff to unpack here. Okay. So it sounds like First Cow is like a very lived-in movie moment, just sort of, what were we talking about earlier? Staring off into the middle distance, putting on boots for 5 actual minutes, things like that. I I don't know if Adam has seen First Cow. I have not. If anyone else has any other thoughts on it, I'd be curious to know if everyone felt that it was sort of like very, very good, but very, very slow. And Grey Knight, mind if I ask what your stream times are? Okay, so well, it sounds like you had met Rez and Elon in other streams. We stream every Tuesday from, well, our time, 5 to 7:38, so Pacific, every Tuesday. Also, what movies are you looking forward to watch until your next stream? Well, we'll get into it in our third segment, but we do have a movie club that we watch every week that we decide on together as a group, as well as staff picks. So if you want to, actually, this is a good time to plug our Instagram. If you want to go to our Instagram, at You Are in a Video Store, you can see all of our panels that Adam beautifully assembles every week, with each of our staff pick and our movie club pick in the middle of those panels, as well as some fun BTS of our new arrivals and a little segment that I recently started called You Are in a Clothing Store.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the name, Holdenwook, on that one.
Thank you so much.
In terms of what we're looking forward to, I'm looking forward to continuing to get into Hong Kong. Look, I'll tell you this. Over the past year, I got really into picking up these lesser-known Hong Kong titles from Tai Seng Video, which is a VHS distributor that was responsible for bringing over a lot of Chinese language films to the U.S. Now, these mostly ended up in import stores. These did not make it to your local Blockbuster. They mostly ended up in... It
sounded like you said local Blockbuster.
Local Blockbuster. They didn't end up at a Blockbuster. They mostly either ended up at an independent video store, or more likely... video stores in areas with Chinese populations, so that people could watch movies that were popular back home after living in America. So I love that I was able to find these, because it's a lot of lesser known Hong Kong stuff. That's what I'm looking forward to. Super much looking forward to watching Sammo Hung's Pedicab Driver, which is like...
oh, I really want to watch that one.
I'll keep it out. Because that's Sammo Hung, who was Jackie Chan's partner, and that's basically his police story, his big action comedy. I'm also really looking forward to watching Bullet in the Head, which is a John Woo one, which is lesser known. So that's me.
We're getting matered.
We're getting matered? Oh no. Holden, look, they were dissing you hard. It was so brutal. Oh yeah, we were mad smacking Holdy Wook.
We just said that you helped us come up with a name for the Get the Look segment. You are in a clothing store.
What First Cow discourse did I miss?
Okay, so it sounds like the consensus on First Cow is that it's visually beautiful and like a good film, but quite slow. I think it was Wedge. Yeah, Wedge was saying that at an actual 5-minute sequence of putting on a boot. So.
Dang. Well, hi, Kat.
Oh boy, here we go.
Hi, I'm here to nudge your tripod slightly. Just wanted to let your viewers know that the frame will be changing soon. You're like the worst PA ever, Kat.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm gonna just out myself as a lover of the slow cinema. I think that if you go in knowing it's happening, it's way different than if you don't. First Cow, honestly, weirdly, like, knowing that there's a 5-minute real time of someone putting on a boot makes me want to watch this movie more.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I gave it a quick little Google while you were in the bathroom, but I don't really know too much about it. Gosh. I do like slow movies, slow cinema. I think if I feel like visually there's a lot going on, or there's like a lot of texture, or, you know, every frame a painting kind of moment going on, I really like when it's held there, so I can actually like I'm in a museum looking at pieces of art, like walking through a museum, I can like really take it in. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, you know, is one of my favorite movies. That is a perfect example of a slow kind of build with beautiful framing and just wonderful imagery.
That movie's so good.
I love that movie.
I have a slow movie that I'd love to recommend since it's on topic. It's called The Assassin. It'll get you.
That ricocheted off of my knee.
Off of my knee.
There
Hey, watching my knee. Thank you.
There you
I like
go.
how you dusted it off.
It
Harmon.
did.
This
Dustin
movie
Hoffman.
is Butterfingers. This movie is called the Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
Dusted Off Man. That was
Dustin
good.
Hoffman.
This movie is called The Assassin. It is by Hu Hao Shen, who is a Taiwanese director who's known for making very slow movies. This movie's very slow. I had to read a full Wikipedia article on the story it was telling because it is a very insular, tight-knit piece of Chinese history, very much made for an audience that already knows the story. So, like, it's like if I was living in Hong Kong my whole life and someone was like, here, watch this experimental movie about Jesse James. I'd be like, what? Who? I'd have to Google it, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie's very slow-paced, but to your point, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And I mean slow-paced in terms of, like, 3 minutes of a wide shot of trees. But everything looks gorgeous in it. I very much recommend that to lovers of slow cinema. I also very much recommend, I don't have it, I was going to pull it like I had it, a movie, where's my other one? So I recently watched a movie called The Turin Horse, which is a 3 or 4 hour movie from a director named Bela Tarr, who's really inspired by Tarkovsky. But The Turin Horse takes this slow cinema thing you're talking about and like amps it up. It is about a father and a daughter on a dying farm that is experiencing an extreme windstorm, and they're trying to keep their one horse alive because if it dies, they will also die. And this movie has straight up 20-minute tracking shots of them opening the barn door, getting the horse to come outside, trying to get it to drink water, and taking it back into the barn without moving the camera, cutting, just like it is slow. And the director's notoriously slow piece is Satan Tango, which I have not seen. I ordered it because it's supposed to be one of the greatest films ever made. I think it says that one of the greatest achievements in recent art house cinema and a seminal work of slow cinema. This is an 8-hour movie. The first scene in it is a 15-minute uninterrupted shot of people walking. Just walking down a trail. This is a movie about people moving from place to place. So, like, I think if I know I'm going into something, to your point, and I can appreciate it as I'm giving my brain and body over to this experience, I'm going to be here with it, then it can end up being almost spiritual experience if you truly let it become meditative and take over you, which I think is slow cinema. But if you don't know it's going to be that going in,
then you can be like, what do we do?
What's up?
Should I get a snack?
The Aristocrats, that's right. Definitely colored my experience. Feel like the themes were coming through by the end. Not going to watch it again, but glad I watched it. Electroma is pretty slow cinema, too. Oh, I need to watch Electroma. That's right! I saw that clip from Electroma. It's a Daft Punk movie.
Ooh.
That they did the, Anyway, I think I've always argued that there's a huge difference between slow and boring, but the thing that's going to define that for every viewer, as with I think most things, is what you go in expecting. So I would love to see First Cow, and I appreciate the warning that it's slow, because now I can meet it where it's at.
Yeah, what is this comment at the very top? Is that Wedge?
The editing seemed experimental, like the point of trying to push the audience to their limits in terms of how long can they push a scene. Oh, we need to watch Sound of Metal. I actually am going to write that down.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
We were talking about that movie a few weeks ago, no?
We were. Appreciate the question, though, and welcome to the stream.
Oh, yes. Welcome, welcome.
I'm going to write that down so that we can get to it. Always happy for a suggestion. Did you like it? Have you seen it? Really like that actor. Loved him in The Night Of, the miniseries with John Turturro.
Oh, you watched that. I did not watch that. I have meant to. I mean to watch that.
I mean to watch it. Great job, nerds. Loved it. Wedge, been thinking about it for weeks. Okay.
Okay, well.
Well, some big cosigns from some regulars in the chat. I'm putting 2 little stars next to it, y'all, so we can come back. We do this show every week. We'll be back next week. We're still in the beginning of the show, which is the what did you watch portion.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone else watched anything interesting you want to comment on or share, please do. Otherwise, let's dive back into
what we watched.
So, my phone died, so we're going to have to do this from memory.
Boy.
Here's the first one. La La Land.
La La Land. Yeah.
Speaking of the sound of metal, the companion piece, La La Land.
Right. I saw this movie in theaters by myself, which was a lovely experience, and have been wanting to rewatch it ever since we moved to La La Land.
Mm-hmm. And I probably hadn't seen it since it first came out on disc. I have always I think we actually, when we had Ryan Darbone, our friend and filmmaker, I think we actually ended up talking about this. Because he used to program at Austin Film Society, right? AFS?
Yes,
or was it AFF?
AFF.
Austin Film Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And he programmed, Great Job Nerds and I went together to see it, a screening of Damien Chazelle's first movie, Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench, with a Skype interview, back then it was Skype, with Damien Chazelle, the director of this and Whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of talked about how it was kind of a bummer that the Academy Award thing happened, because this and Moonlight are both such amazing films for such different reasons.
Yeah.
So let's divorce it from that discourse real quick and just say, as an American musical, this shit is incredible.
It's great.
This is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Oh,
Great Job Nerds made the poster.
Made the poster. I love that.
Yeah, I love it too. The fact that you made the poster, but also
the movie.
The movie. The movie is great. I think it really it really is such a nod to the rom-coms of the 30s and musicals and is it Bigsby or Bugsby? I always forget.
Busby.
I wasn't even right.
Here you go.
Not Bigsby, Busby.
Busby Berkeley.
Like the opening sequence and some of the other visuals just really have a really nice. What do you think?
God, I just eat it up. Not only is it I love musicals, and not only is this an ode to, like you said, 30s Busby Berkeley style choreo, but also Technicolor up the wazoo.
Oh yeah.
And I gotta say that I, early in quarantine last year, watched through the entirety of the Criterion box set of Jacques Demy's movies. And I will say that painted this in a brand new light, too, because there's so much Demy over this thing. Because Jacques Demy's movies, some of them are musicals, some of them aren't, but they're all shot like musicals. Especially, the 4 girls at the beginning in their different dresses is, a clear nod to either Young Girls of Roquefort or Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
For sure.
The 2 big ones. But, the camera moves, the title placement, it's so much, this is like the Tarantino of musicals. Every cool thing you've seen a musical do since sound came into the pictures, is distilled into this postmodern, almost revisionist history of what a normal musical plot should be. It is a love song to love. It is a love song to musicals. It is a love song to chasing your dreams. Mm-hmm. But it's also got that complex human element. We talked a lot about it. How much is Ryan Gosling's character actually willing to sacrifice everything for love? Mm-hmm. And Emma Stone's not. It's emotionally complex on top of being choreographed to the wazoo. And I think that something you and I said afterwards, too, after watching it, was there's a difference between doing a movie and being okay, it's got some musical numbers, or here's the musical episode of our TV show, and you have people sing. There's a difference between that and truly saying we're making a musical. Every way the camera moves, every frame that we do has to be lyrical in some way. Yeah. And this is just one of the most fluid, masterfully choreographed, and I'm not even talking about, the music numbers. I'm talking about the way the camera moves through this movie is nuts.
It is.
Looks like we just got some other love here. You know what? Just to keep it going, the way the camera moves through this movie, which we watched, is also nuts.
Yes. I agree.
Where are my after hours heads in the house here? This is a lesser known or maybe just lesser appreciated Scorsese joint from the year I was born.
Wow, what if, like, After Hours was something I was reminded of because of a Catherine O'Hara Stan account that I follow on Instagram, and I was like, you know what? Putting that in my mental notes, and then I just casually mentioned it to Adam, I think on Sunday, and we were like, he's like, pulls it out of the drawer as so often happens, and boom, we're watching After Hours.
I love this movie. It is so stressful.
It's so great. It's so stressful. Afterwards, I turned to Adam and we were kind of talking about it, and I was like, this movie is either about a whole bunch of things or nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely like, we read the Ebert review afterwards, as I often do, because I idolize Roger Ebert, and he described it as cinema for cinema's sake, or for the sake of itself. Like, this is just freewheeling, fun storytelling, whisking the protagonist from issue to issue in an interconnected, beautiful way.
Yeah.
And it really is everything that makes Scorsese work. The fluid camera work. Scorsese is famously quoted as saying he's never made a movie with a plot. Until I think he was referring to The Departed as the first movie he'd made with a plot.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really cool to see all of his instincts divorced from the world of crime and just in this movie about, like, the worst case scenario of a booty call of all time.
Yeah, yeah. And the cast is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Yeah, this kind of going back to horror, and we were talking about the theme weeks. Help me make this connection here.
Oh, Griffin Dunne, the lead in this.
Griffin Dunne is amazing.
He is amazing.
He's so good. But yeah.
It's up there. I just don't want to reach that high.
Okay.
Griffin Dunne is the zombie best friend from American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
So he just never has a good night out.
Right. Under a full moon.
Under a full moon.
Specifically. But yeah, this movie is just what a fun cavalcade of characters and great performances from all these different actors. And like I said, I feel like this movie is about nothing, but it feels like it's also about everything. Also about death and you know, emasculation and existential crisis and
sexual
sex
terror.
And, yeah.
I think it's about everything that rushes through a young man's head as he goes into a scary new situation for the promise of something he may or may not receive.
Yeah.
I think this movie is, if it's about or not about anything, it's simply about anxiety.
Yeah.
This movie is an anxiety trip.
Mm-hmm.
It's also one of the best One Crazy Night comedies out there.
Oh, for sure.
Very recommended.
Hands down.
Dang, After Hours might be my staff pick this week.
I was going to make it my staff pick.
Well, then you take it. I'll figure something else out. And thank God for Apple syncing, because even though my phone died, I can pull up the list over here. Okay, we've only got a few more. We watched Neighbors 1 and Neighbors 2. I had seen Neighbors before, and I remember loving it, which I loved it again. It manages to... I think I was saying, it's like everything fun about movie frats, but with all of the, like, real-life, terrible shit kind of taken out so you can enjoy it, kind of like Old School. Mm-hmm. So my pick for Neighbors is to double feature it with Old School. Whereas Neighbors 2 immediately addresses all that.
Yeah.
And I ended up, like, I'd never seen Neighbors 2 before. I was, like, after it wrapped, I think I said to you, like, well, that might be one of my favorite comedies in recent memory, and I had no right to do that. Right. Who knew that Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising, would be one of the best comedies in recent memory?
I have to agree with you. Both of these movies, the thing that really drives it home for me, why these are so enjoyable, is they're so charming. Mm-hmm. They're, like, so... They just feel so unexpectedly human and sweet. Mm-hmm. Like, they're very sweet movies. There are emotional, familial-driven moments where you're like, am I crying at Neighbors 2?
You cried at Neighbors 2.
I cried at the end of Neighbors 2. I was like, what is wrong with me?
But it's not only the family, it's also, like all that talk about brotherhood. Like, look, I hated the frats on my campus. Like, I thought all that talk of brotherhood was bullshit. This movie, in real life, maybe it is. But in these movies, it's genuinely, like, made me think of my male friends and of, like, the way I love them. And get emotional about it because it's genuinely, like you said, so earnest.
Yeah, and it is men being emotional and physical and open with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not... That's another thing. I think that these movies, there's no gay panic and there's no objectification of women, really.
Yeah.
The first one a little bit with the frat party stuff, but Rose Byrne's there to offset that,
Sure,
right?
But even with the objectification of women in these movies, or lack thereof, it's very self-aware, because they know, and in the second one, they flip that completely on its head and completely objectify Zac Efron the entire movie, including a whole sequence where he dances topless with baby oil or ham oil rubbed all over him, which is something typically you would see a girl on a bar top or a table at a party.
The Coyote Ugly move.
Or a wet t-shirt contest or whatever, which I did appreciate how the second one really played with role reversals there.
I also loved how his character became, like, Zac Efron is the, like, representation of every man who maybe made some dumb broy jokes when he was younger and is trying to be better. The sequence where he's talking about the parties they threw and how they were inclusive of women. Mm-hmm. His acting is so good because he's like, he's like boats and hoes, CEOs and hoes, and the girls are like, yes, those are all hoes. Yeah. And the way Zac Efron acts it out with his face of, like, slowly realizing that he's never thrown a non-ho party and being like, you guys are right. It's funny, but also, like, I love that Zac Efron is taking charge of what he represents to so many people by, like come with me. It's more fun to be in this space.
And again, very self-aware with those moments. In the second one in particular, I think there are 3 separate beats where he has a moment where he stops and he actually thinks about, like, the objectification of women or something similar, and it is wonderful facial acting where he's just like, oh, that moment of, oh, you're right. Yeah. Oh, okay, I see it.
Charming. Charming, like you said. And Nicholas Stoller's the director who also did Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I think that movie has the same vibe of, like, you might go in thinking it's dumb rom-com. It might have some, like, it has the dick jokes and stuff that we're going to expect from a Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg script, but everyone actually cares about each other's emotional well-being, and no one's really the bad guy. They're all kind of just, like, they're all relatable and likable. Mm-hmm. It's just, like, what if we took all these comedy stereotypes and actually made them people, and then the comedy was from how people negotiate stereotypical situations instead of how stereotypes negotiate human situations.
Yeah, and the second movie in particular really touches upon, again, with, like, this sort of role reversal of typical comedy through the lens of the male gaze or whatever. There are 2 times where they do something like gross out humor that's specifically about women. One time with
the breast milk. That's such a good
gag.
And
then the second time with tampons. And both times they, like, might as well turn to the camera and wink and say, like, you wouldn't be grossed out if this was...
Well, they say it explicitly in the second one.
Yeah.
That's one of the facial acting moments.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's the cat cameo.
Cat. Meow, meow.
Holden Wook saw Neighbors at a friend's place who torrented it while it was in theaters. He was worried they were going to get in trouble the whole time.
Aww.
You get that knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Neighbors. I really like Neighbors 2. I think Neighbors 2 would be a really fun double feature with Booksmart.
Ooh, yes.
They both got homegirl in it, who I forget her name. She's Seth Rogen's little sister, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I am blanking on her name. Oh man, she's so good.
She's very funny.
She's so funny, and Booksmart is amazing. Actually, if you want to take after hours this week, I'll save it, and Booksmart will be mine.
Okay. Well,
we can negotiate.
I want to surprise myself and pull something out of thin air. Finally, the last thing we watched, Cat Takeover Stream. Do you consider cinematography in movies as well? Notice a lot of their talks, characters, actors, theme. What about angles? People don't consider such a cinema. I think that this is an interesting question, because I think for me it all becomes very holistic. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm generally, like, I definitely do think we notice the camera. I think a lot of times for, I think that everything, including the camera, is kind of at the service of the emotional experience that your film or intellectual experience your film wants to say, whether or not it's character driven or experimental or whatnot. The camera work is meant to be the pathway that gets you there. So I think that we definitely do bring that stuff up when it comes to maybe more ostentatious camera work like Michael Bay, or slow-paced camera work like slow cinema. But I think a lot of these movies that we're talking about are also like pretty shot-reverse shot.
Yeah, I think it all depends on the movie. I think when, at least for me, when it feels like it really stood out to me, or it feels really relevant to the way the story was told, I definitely want to do a deep dive. I will say that, like, since this is your first time on the stream, and welcome anybody else who it's their first time watching the stream, you know, Adam went to film school, and I studied film in college as well, but I also majored in literary criticism, writing, and rhetoric. So my mind tends to go to, like, breaking down motifs and themes and characters and narrative throughways.
And I'm more of a theory head, too, because I tended to study stuff that was more theory. And that's always been where my head's at. I think that it's not that we want to take the cinematography for granted, but I think that sometimes I don't want to fall into the trap of, like, the way I used to talk about movies. I think when I was... the cat is taking a poop right next to us. I think that I used to very much think about, like, acting, cinematography, writing, directing as, like, 4 separate buckets.
Breaking them down into...
Exactly. And I think that's the way a lot of me and my friends would talk about things in high school, especially, is like breaking them into buckets. And I think that I just think of them all as the one, they're all arms on the same beast. So I think that, but I do go back to character a lot because it's what I kind of value.
Yeah. Most. I will say that when we get into movie club, I do have some specific thoughts on the cinematography. So.
Oh, hell yeah. Our Hard Boiled is shot like a...
Yeah.
What? I saw someone... Well, we'll get into it. The last thing we watched this week was we decided let's start watching through the Star Wars movies. Something I don't think either of us have ever done is watch them in numerical order instead of order of release. I've never done that.
I haven't either. It's already, I'm like, okay, buckle up.
We started with episode 1. Can I get a real quick pulse on the room of who is in episode 1, what people's feelings are in episode 1? I will spoil... say I love this movie, but I also was, like, taught to love this movie. It came out when I was a perfect age. I'd already been obsessed with Star Wars because of the special edition trilogy in the 90s and the toy resurgence. I was a Star Wars kid through and through. I was primed to love this. I was not old enough to criticize the things that made it different or the CG. I accepted it, and it was one of the first tapes I ever got that I wore out watching every day after school. And then I went through a phase, as I think many of us did, of like, oh, this is actually bad. And now I think I've come full circle on, it's heavily flawed, but I will never not love it. Let's move on. Like, let's watch it and have fun.
Jar Jar Binks was unnecessary, though. Oh, okay. Pathos coming in hot with the Jar Jar Binks.
I mean, Jar Jar, everyone hates Jar Jar. Episode 1, as in the 4th or the 1st? I mean, episode 1, as in Roman numeral 1. As in, yeah, the first, the 1999 Phantom Menace. Let's just call it Phantom Menace. That's clearly the easy solution to this confusion. Liked it the first time, hated it more and more as time went on now that Rise of Skywalker came out and took the cake. I think I like it again. Really like it if the Jar Jar Binks Sith lore theory had panned out. Okay, I'm going to put myself out here on a limb. I'm going to come out as a Jar Jar Binks fan. I
was like, when is he going to break the news that he is a Jar Jar Binks stan fan?
I kind of love Jar Jar. I think he's so stupid, but I think that he's so fun. And I think it's weird. It's like, the older I get, the less I care that there's a character in there just for kids.
Hey, we had a great night. Giving him some love for Jar Jar Binks.
Hell yeah. I like Jar Jar. Jar Jar's part also gets significant. He has, I think, like 3 lines of dialogue in the second one, and he's barely in the third one. I don't know. I dig it. I feel really bad for what happened to Ahmed Best, the actor who played him, because he thought it was going to make his whole career, and he ended up being suicidal instead. Just like Jake Lloyd getting bullied to this day for being what, an adorable kind of bad actor dork as a kid. Poor Jake Lloyd.
What was Jake Lloyd?
The kid who plays Anakin.
Oh, right.
He's like did not have a good go of it.
Right.
Okay, Kat, that's
enough.
That's the bad zone, buddy.
That's the bad zone. I will say that episode 1 for me, this was the first time I've seen it since high school, and I was so distracted by how literally everything is done on a green screen, which I knew going in. Like, I remembered that, and I like, logically I knew it, but once it got to the parts where you were supposed to be, like, in a forest, surrounded by trees, I was like, why are we on a green screen? It just was so distracting to me, and I get it. I understand contextually, like, why it was happening or whatever. I found it really distracting, and honestly, like, there was a moment where they were on Tatooine, and there was, like, a shot of their house on Tatooine or something, and I was like, that's what I want. Oh, it's a set. Oh, it looks like Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh,
it looks like Star Wars.
It's gone.
The
but
huts,
there it was.
the, like, slave encampments on Tatooine. I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, it looks almost like a beehive.
Yeah.
Built in. That, and
but
then
not
there's...
but there was, like, a medium wide of just 2 characters, like, in front of their house, and it was, like, clearly a built, like, adobe structure, and I was like, oh, yes, more of that.
Well, I think they shot that in Tunisia, where they did the original, and then there's a few spaceship interiors in it as well, but for the most part, and see, that's the thing that I think that because it's been so long since you've watched it, and it's been more of a regular clip for me, these are the things that I just accept. Exactly. I accept, it's that Serenity Prayer, baby. I accept the things I cannot change, and there's a lot I cannot change about the Star Wars prequels. So I can either hate them, or I can get the fun out of them that's there.
Yeah. That being said, I'm going with the flow here. Like, we got 2 more of these, and I'm here for it.
And there's a few Jar Jar episodes of the Clone Wars that I'm really interested in. And and he was in Jake Lloyd was in Jingle in the Way with Schwarzenegger. And he's great in that. Is it dinner time for the cat?
Yeah, I was gonna wait till you got into New Arrivals.
Okay,
and
that's
take
perfect.
a quick break for the ends.
Okay, so episode 1, what is there to say that hasn't been said? I feel like people know how they feel about this movie. I personally am always down for a Star Wars movie, except for, like, the newer ones, because it'll always be a comfort zone for me. The pod race sequence, still legitimately amazing.
Yes, I gotta say, not to cut you off, but...
Go for it.
That sequence was the most enjoyable portion of the movie. It's awesome. Hands down, by far, no contest. I was like, oh, here we go. Okay, this is a movie.
Yes.
I love the choice to not play any music until he crosses the finish line. I love the choice that it feels, like, very lived in and very, like, it's not truly in real time.
It is.
But it feels...
That race is in real time, I think. Or no, not truly. You're right.
It's not truly. It feels, though. You're in the race with them. You're like, ooh, third lap.
I know, yeah. Bing. The only thing I don't like about that whole sequence is the stupid CG Jabba.
I agree. But I do think that it seemed like maybe they used some miniatures.
Yes, actually.
Which was exciting.
They did. There's that entire lap they go around is miniature. And that's why people were, including me, responded so emotionally and so strongly to The Force Awakens. Because The Force Awakens shot on location and built out real starship structures for people to be in.
Yeah.
It was the first time Star Wars had done that since the 80s. And so, like, while there's a little bit of that, there's also the crossfade. We also watched it on this new box set, which is the newest version because they keep improving them. And so that new box set included they replaced the puppet Yoda with CG Yoda to make him match how he would appear in the other 2. We could do a whole separate talk show / podcast about the Star Wars prequels, and I'm sure that we would just say things that other Star Wars podcasts have said. But I want to see...
Yeah.
Good taste, I agree. Not as fond of the newer ones, but old is truly gold. I mean, I feel like the original trilogy is maybe the most important film story ever that shaped American culture, shaped world culture, mythologized spirituality for a modern audience at a time when people were very sad in the late 70s. I think Star Wars is arguably the most important American movie of all time. I think the prequels are a really fun, like, it's like going to a pretty good amusement park based on something you love. And then the new ones is like watching a reboot that they got mostly right. Until Rise of Skywalker, when they get it mostly wrong.
Which is the only one I haven't seen. So no spoilers, please.
But I think I will always dig. I don't really have a lot of hate in my heart left for Star Wars, to be honest. I think I'm tired of I honestly think I'm tired of having an opinion about Star Wars, so at this point I'm just going to enjoy it or not.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm curious, so I just realized, like, I don't understand, since I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker, where this fits into the way we're going to be watching.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So it's 9?
Rise of Skywalker is number 9.
Okay.
See, as you'll notice in this box set, there are 3 trilogies. The prequels, the original, and the new ones. And together they make episodes 1 through 9.
That just goes to show you I know nothing about Rise of Skywalker. I don't even remember seeing a preview for it.
It's like, Last Jedi was number 8, it's number 9. It's the end of the nonology of core Skywalker story. And then there's the spin-offs like Solo and Rogue One and stuff.
Cool.
I really want to see, my real complaint is about Jar Jar was the scenes they cut, scene where Darth Maul hops onto the ship and fights them both and then gets booted out. That, I will say, I was a little bit like, how did it take Darth Maul? Like, they do the whole pod race sequence while Darth Maul is, like, landed and his drones are out finding information, and then he barely catches them as they fly away. Like, Darth Maul, go into the city on your little scooter bike, dude. Find the race, interrupt it. You're a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
Knock this, force jump up that platform and kill the Jedi right there. Anyway, Qui-Gon Jinn's my favorite Jedi. I love him. I love how rebellious he is. He is also the one who dooms the entire galaxy, but I love him. And he doesn't doom them, actually, he saves them. Well, if the story had been told right in number 9. Qui-Gon Jinn was Yoda's final master. Whoa! That's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I'm going to look into that more because I want to learn more about that lineage. Star Wars' first anthology is the most impactful movie in terms of its social and timeline ever enjoying the perspective. Well, thank you, Grey Knight. It's good having you here.
Yeah.
Also, I like your username. I want to say that what I had hoped was going to be the resolution of this whole series was the evolution of the Grey Jedi Knight. Because in Return of the Jedi, when Luke first arrives, he's in all black. He uses Force Choke. He uses a push. He uses dark side powers. During his fight, at the very end of the movie, when he confronts the Emperor, his suit becomes torn open and there's white underneath it. Implying that Luke, because he lost his training at a pivotal time, was able to transcend to a true balance of the Force. Which I always thought was the prophecy of Anakin leading balance of the Force, doing so through his kids, through Luke and Leia. Mm-hmm. And then the sequels, I thought they were going to push that and that they were going to explore the idea of Rey becoming a Grey Jedi in terms of a Jedi who is neutral but is in harmony with things, like a real samurai might be. And I was a little bummed they biffed that. I will also say that, last thought on episode 1, regardless of the fact that everything is CG, it's very impressive for 1999. It's actually bonkers impressive. And 2, name another movie in which we basically get two samurai fighting robots in Florentine-era Rome. Or like Florence, Italy. Mm-hmm. Like, that's basically what that Naboo fight is like, the Jedi are samurais, there's robots, and they're in Renaissance-era Italy. Like, that's cool, man.
Yeah. The last thing I will say about episode 1 is, I don't know, Holden Walker, are you still out there, / any other band geeks who maybe, I don't know if this was like, this became a thing, but I am blanking on the name, Darth Maul's theme.
Duel of the Fates?
Duel of the Fates. Duel of the Fates was like hot in band.
Yeah.
Like, I played Duel of the Fates a ton, and I'm just curious if anybody else had that experience where it was like, oh, this new piece of music is incredible.
It's awesome.
It's so good, and it was so fun to play, by the way. Wow. Just giving out some love for Duel of the Fates and any band nerds out there who it was hot off the press.
I love that. I definitely wore that track out on my deluxe limited edition Star Wars Episode 1 soundtrack CD I got for Christmas.
Ooh.
With a foil blue cover with the picture of Darth Maul's face.
Foil blue cover.
Pathos says Qui-Gon died, became one with the Force, then came back and taught Yoda how to become a Force ghost, which is why Yoda at the end of Episode 3 says to Obi, in your exile, training for you I have. Love it. Ashoka is a true Grey Jedi. You meet her in Star Wars Clone Wars and Rebels and The Mandalorian. That's awesome. Also, I didn't know there was crossover between Mandalorian and the animated series. Of course there is. That's got to be another reason that we need to watch it.
And why people love it.
And why people love it.
Yeah.
Since you reminded me with Duel of the Fates, music note, fun little trivia fact, the theme, my favorite song, actually, from Episode 1, June, get out of there. I'm trying to eat the cat poop. Gross.
That's disgusting.
Dog's trying to eat cat poop.
You make me sick.
In addition to Duel of the Fates, is that the Naboo parade theme at the end that goes that theme is actually the Emperor's Palpatine's theme from Jedi sped up and put in a major key. Which is with a male choir. Anyway, I think it's really cool to hide that victory.
It is cool.
In there. Final note for real, Holdenwook and I definitely had a conversation when we were dumb 12 and 11-year-old kids where we saw this and we were like, do you think that Palpatine is the same as the Emperor Palpatine? We'll have to see the next one to find out. So, like... Also, one of my first, fan...
I am connecting the dots.
Exactly.
Minority Report.
Exactly. Okay, well, cool. That was the What Have You Watched section of the show. That's, like you've said, our most fluid section. If you have anything else you want to talk about, drop it in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to jump over to New Arrivals, our unboxing section of the show, while Steph takes care of our video store cat and dog.
Yes, if you're a regular, you know that... Around this time is when they get hungry, and in about 30 minutes is when you're going to hear a vacuum.
That's right. That's right. That's called consistency, everybody.
Right?
Cool. And then we'll do Movie Club. We'll talk about Hard Boiled. And I'm going to make this real quick with New Arrivals. Honestly, only have a few things. So let's jump into it.
Cool.
New Okie dokie. Wait, you were supposed to do...
Magic Club.
Where did Stephanie go? Magic. Cool, y'all. New Arrivals. Let's dive into it. So, like I said, it's a bit of a lighter week. So let's just go ahead and first say that I got this in the mail. Really excited about this one. Return of the Living Dead 3. This is from Vestron Video. Vestron Video is a famous VHS horror distributor. Well, not just horror, but mostly known for that back in the day. And they've been doing this thing where they've been using their licenses to put out nice remastered Blu-rays of some of their more famous movies. And they put them all out in this kind of not to be too much of a boutique Blu-ray fetishist here, but they put them out in this nice kind of shiny metallic slip sleeve. And they all look really nice together. So I've been trying to collect them all Pokemon style. And this one went on sale on Amazon, so I snagged it. Really excited to watch it. Love the Return of the Living Dead franchise. Then Stephanie and I went... holy shit, she's a ninja. She is a ninja. I also think Return of the Living Dead 3 might be a really good double feature with Army of the Dead because of the zombie evolution plot. Okay, and then Steph and I went out to Amoeba Records in Hollywood, which is the new Amoeba Records. They have an import section that is specifically a whole section of discs that you can't play unless you have a region-free player. And that makes it a gold mine because we recently got a region-free player. But since not many people have them, it's awesome to get to go browse and actually find crazy stuff in there. On that note, I found this. This Luis Buñuel box set put out by Studio Canal. It's got 7 Buñuel movies on it. Diary of a Chambermaid, Belle de Jour, Milky Way, Tristana, Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, Phantom of Liberty, and That Obscure Object of Desire. I was planning on picking up the Luis Buñuel box set from Criterion at the 50% off sale at Barnes & Noble this summer, and that only has 3 of these movies on it, and it was gonna set me back $50 to pick that up at the sale. This was $50 with 7 movies, and that, my friends, is why I'm happy I have a region-free player. And why I think you should invest in one, because you can find a lot of stuff for cheaper if you find the UK release often. So really excited about that. And the other one that I picked up along with it from Amoeba is this Village People fronted musical, Can't Stop the Music. I am kind of working on a secret disco movie project right now, and so I'm trying to snatch up every disco themed movie that I can find to kind of do some research on. And the thing that makes me most excited about this is that the back says, reviled by critics but loved by fans. It's a jaw-dropping experience. Plus, I don't know if you can tell, but the lettering is done in like a shiny glitter way. And that's cool. I'm a sucker. Finally, we found this for $5 out in the wild at Best Buy, Run Lola Run. This was one of my favorites in high school. Just such a fun entry into like the German, new wave digital movies. Made Franco Potente a star. Made Tom Tykwer an international director. Really fun Rashomon style action movie with German techno soundtrack and digital techniques being used in one of their first ways. Cool. What else did we get in the new arrivals section? Well, there's a wonderful tape trader out there named Cosmic Bunny who is responsible for some really cool bootlegs. They did what is known as a fire sale in a Facebook group recently. A fire sale is when someone who is a VHS trader unloads a bunch for cheap prices, and you comment on the comments to claim them. So I ended up getting quite the haul for just around $30, and I'm really excited about what I got because it's actually like darn good deal for these. So I'll go through these quick. This is a bootleg. This is a Fox Kids Christmas broadcast from 1998. I cannot wait to watch this for Christmas this year.
I love bootleg TV and mixtapes for the holidays.
Me too. And this is just a straight up like 3-hour broadcast.
Yeah.
It's like what was on that Saturday morning of Christmas weekend. Got this for Stephanie. This is a Japanese copy of A Mighty Wind. The reason I got it is because the slip sleeve for it is a Japanese poster for A Mighty Wind, and I thought we might want to frame it.
And I'm a real guest head. So.
Real guest head. And maybe we can try watching this movie in Japanese and see if the dubbing, if it's funny with the dubbing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's subtitled, and now we just have a tape of A Mighty Wind with Japanese subtitles.
That'd be great. Either way.
Got this, the Atomic Bomb movie. Now, I know actually Holdenwook was really into this at one point, and watched it a few times when we were younger. It's called Trinity and Beyond. The reason I was excited about this particular copy is that it's like the deluxe one, and the second tape in here is just atomic bomb footage in 3D with the red and blue glasses.
Good night, Grey Knight.
Good night, Grey Knight. It was great to have you here.
Nice having you on the stream. Hope to see you next week.
Yes.
And enjoy Pulse and Deep Red.
Yes. Ooh. Keep the lights on. Here's another one. They threw this one in for free. This is Starship Troopers, the anime. I was actually really stoked on this because I thought that it was a tie-in to the movie, but it's actually an original adaptation of the book from 1988 in anime format. I did try watching this, and it had some tracking issues, so I'm going to try and fix the tape so I can finish that and report back. Got a VHS single for Criss Cross's Jump, which includes 2 music videos. I'm a real 90s hip-hop head, and specifically had a kind of unironic love of Criss Cross's Totally Crossed Out album. It was one of the albums that my friend Max and I would bang on tape while we were cruising around Austin as new hipsters to the city. How can you not want a Criss Cross tape? It was $1. Another great Scorsese comedy, King of Comedy. The new Joker movie is basically a remake of this, and I thought it was really fun how that's particularly telegraphed on the cover, where Robert De Niro's character literally says Joker next to him. If you want to know the plot of this, it's basically the plot of Joker. Watch it, it's fantastic. Straight Jacket, totally new to me. This is William Castle. William Castle, famous horror movie shock artist. He's the guy who did The Tingler and Electrified Movie Seats, House on Haunted Hill, 13 Ghosts, a lot of stuff that was later remade. Is William Castle, and this is a movie he did with Joan Crawford, where she plays the villain, and I think it's going to be real fun. And finally, I picked this. Actually, not finally. There's one more. This is 52 Pickup, which I'd never heard of, but I love John Frankenheimer. He's the guy who directed the original Manchurian Candidate, and he's got kind of a hit or miss career. But this is an 80s action movie he did with Roy Schneider and Anne Margaret. So, figured it'd be pretty solid.
Cool.
Yeah, right. I love it's. We always talk about the movies that are famous and stood the test of time, but there are just hundreds of thousands of movies that were just like a solid action movie that came out that everyone forgot about. 52 Pickup probably is not on DVD.
Yeah.
So I love finding tapes that are forgotten movies. For realsies final, and this I picked up because, again, it was $1, and no, this one he threw in for free. And this is I figured it was on theme. It is a tourism video for Hong Kong called Hong Kong, the Exciting City, geared towards... Now, I'm curious about this because it's VHS, NTSC, not PAL. PAL would have made it... maybe it's region free. Oh, it is. It's region free. So this is a tourism video, probably mostly produced for people in the UK, because the connection between Britain and the Hong Kong, as well as the narrator is a British guy. But this was really fun. It's just a bunch of like helicopter footage of things in Hong Kong. I threw it on late at night. I think I fell asleep to it, but it was a fun context to see a tourism video for Hong Kong that was shot at the time a lot of these movies we're watching are, to see what the city really looks like.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. Well, I know it's getting late, y'all. We're going to hop over into movie club now. I feel like... Well, cool. I need to take another bathroom break. How are you doing?
I'm good. Do you want to jump into movie club or?
I do. I want to take my bathroom break as we jump into movie club.
All right.
And leave you alone.
Go for it.
Okay.
Movie club.
I'm not a ninja.
Not as smooth as me, huh?
Not as smooth.
Okay, thank you for those of you who are still out in the chat. We are in the third portion, the third act of our show, the movie club portion. This past week, our movie club pick was Hard Boiled, John Woo's Hard Boiled from 1992. I believe this was maybe a second, third watch for Adam. For me, it's the first time I've seen Hard Boiled. Please let me know in the chat if you watched the movie this week and what your thoughts are. I'll start by saying Chow Yun-fat is amazing. All the performances in this movie are just great, like across the board. The acting, the action, the visual poetry, loved. Adam needs to polish his yes, he does need to polish his ninja skills. Okay, so basically this movie is about Tequila, nicknamed Jaded Detective Tequila, and it says here, a dizzying odyssey through the world of Hong Kong triads, undercover agents, and frenzied police raids, culminating unforgettably in the breathless hospital sequence. One thing I found super impressive about this movie is obviously the action sequences themselves, but the length of the action sequences. They're just unrelenting. They just don't let up. They just keep going, especially the obviously the hospital sequence, but the sequence in the warehouse. You're
right?
Like, dang.
There it is.
Oh, thank you.
Let it be. The length of them. When I first saw True Lies, that's how I felt about it. Like True Lies is like there's that chase, and it just you keep thinking, okay, they're going. They're driving the motorcycle up the escalator. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're flying out the window at the top of the mall. It's the same as this. I read something. I was Googling a little after we watched it, and one thing I read. Someone heard motorcycle. One thing I read that I immediately agreed with was Hard-Boiled is the big bad action movie that every other action movie wants to be. Like it is just that's a good point with the length and certain part. I think that's like it creates that immersive, just like hundreds of thousands of bullets.
Yeah.
Stunt work, sparks. Like,
amazing.
And the way the camera's
so
wide.
Immersive.
The way that and our friend left, but talking about the cinematography.
Exactly.
The way now I've heard before that John Woo gets his basic shots written on paper, but then does most of it on the fly with his DP once they're in the space. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you can tell that there's so many fun ideas of little motion.
Yeah.
And while there's a lot of cutting, he never cuts to obscure. He cuts to enhance. Mm-hmm. And I think that really differentiates this as like the work of a master versus the work of someone who wants to be good. Mm-hmm. Because so many action directors would do the cut, as we've talked about on this show, to avoid having to pull off the stunt. Mm-hmm. John Woo gets the stunt in the wide and then gives you the cut ins to keep the fucking flames in your face.
Yeah.
But like watching the motorcycle jump with the multi-angle, in particular, the wide shot I'm thinking that I think I heard you audibly gasp was a motorcycle going off a ramp, getting shot, and bursting into flames with the stuntman on it.
Ugh, the stunt work in this film is so off the charts.
It's insane.
It's insane. I also, just to talk about the cinematography, and I could be totally off base here, but there are a lot of these extended action sequences where, whether it's a oneer or not, they seem like oneers, where they speed up and slow down as they kind of track the characters. And it really felt like that instinct or that type of shot was lifted for like early aughts heist movies a lot.
Interesting.
Where there's like, you know, it's like super highly saturated like sequences of, and then we're going to do this. And like not just the breakdown of the heist, but the actual heist itself where the character, it's like a tracking shot of the character like moving through a space and it's speeding up and slowing down as the narrative is unfolding.
That's interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. That just makes me want to rewatch Ocean's 11 now to look for that stuff. But in particular, the speed up, slow down in the one shot, did you notice that shot in the hospital was one shot? Did it take you like, was there a moment where you were like, have they cut?
Yes.
Did you have that moment?
I had a moment where I was like, oh, we're still going. Oh, we haven't cut away.
And the incredible thing about that one take is that not only do they pan back and forth to do about like 15, 20 people like separate explosive moments and squib moments, but then the two characters, Tequila and Alan. He's called Alan in the version we watched. His name is, I think the proper translation is Tony. But Alan and we'll call him Tony because it's Tony Leung. God, what a babe. By the way, Tony Leung, I forgot he was in this, but Tony Leung's one of my favorite actors ever.
Oh, yeah. I was saying that the acting in this movie is also incredible.
Yeah.
It's like
except from John Woo.
It's like firing. Oh, yeah. but in general, this movie is firing on all cylinders.
Yes.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes. Well, the moment in that one shot that blew my mind when I first saw it is that they pull off about 15 to 20 distinct bits in one shot. Then the two actors get on an elevator and you think it's going to cut, and then the elevator just goes up a floor and they do it again on the next floor. That
to me was incredible. I even was like, did they just reset?
I think they reset the same floor.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Because they come out of the elevator, go left, and then they come back right again. And I was like, are they resetting over there? Oh my God.
They reset and then they go a different direction to make it look like a new floor.
Wow.
Yeah. You can tell that all the stunt guys are like, get up, get up, get up. Mm-hmm. And that's why they linger in the elevator just long enough to give everyone time.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay, let's catch up with the chat here. Multi-angle action. I agree with this. Like, this used to bother me, but it's such a Chinese, or I should say a Hong Kong technique to do the multi-angles with the big stunts. I used to think that, like, I think it used to bother me as a young film goer because I thought, don't break the illusion of the movie. And now I'm like, show off what you did. Mm-hmm. Let me see it again. I saw Hardboiled a long time ago, but recently saw a synthwave video where the footage is basically the entire hospital scene, and it's amazing. And yeah, he gets the cut from every angle and shows it to you, like, look how awesome this is. Yeah, for sure. I think John Woo is just like, this movie starts very unassumingly too. It starts like a little like soft boiled. Like it's but it starts with like this restaurant scene, and the restaurant shootout's not my favorite. Like, it's a little chaotic. It's
not my favorite either, but I do really love the run down the stairway baluster moment.
Cool. Yeah. That's the first two guns moment. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's incredible.
Baluster? Banister?
Banister. I think we said baluster, but it's banister. Whatever. Play with language. You only live YOLO. I think, well, the other thing is, while it's not my favorite, I think it's also because it's acclimating you to the noise of the movie. Yeah. It's letting you know, like, here we go. Yeah. But to your point from earlier, these long takes, and these long sequences, like, especially the warehouse one, where there's a whole gang war shootout, and then the main character shows up for another one. Mm-hmm. I couldn't help but compare this to every other, like, warehouse shootout I've ever seen.
Me too. And it also made me think of a movie that I have not seen, just put that out there right away. And I also don't even know if it exists or if I made it up in my mind. Maybe it came out like 4 years ago, where it's the entire movie is a warehouse shootout.
Yeah, it's
what is that movie?
Yeah, it's called Free Fire.
Free Fire? Yeah. And I was wondering if maybe this movie was the inspiration for that.
Maybe. I would like to watch Free Fire now. It's got Brie Larson in it.
Oh yeah.
Free Fire.
Free Fire.
Speaking of which, real quick, hospital fight is incredible. Also, everyone talks about the hospitals like they refer to it as the hospital sequence. It's the second half of the movie. Yeah. I've said that before. It's funny. I've talked about it for years as like, oh yeah, once they get to the hospital, it's incredible. Like that final sequence. No, that's the second hour of a 2-hour movie. Mm-hmm. Halfway through the movie, they're in the hospital. Here we go. Yeah. God damn. And this is the banister. It's the cover of the disc, literally.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
The banister slide.
Yeah, and again, those like super, super, super long sequences just make you feel so in it with them. Because you're like, oh my god, the noise, the lights, like, is it ever going to stop? Like,
but it's so balletic.
It's poetry.
It is. It's poetry. Violence rendered as poetry. It's beautiful violence. That, I think I actually heard your breath get taken away, too, in the big warehouse thing after all that. And then they're both navigating their way through all the gun smoke. And then they spin, and they end up in that classic two-gun hold.
I did. I went...
It's incredible. And then the way Tony Leung just like smiles and puts the hammer back on his gun and walks away.
Oh, it's great.
So good. I legitimately forgot he was undercover on this watch. Yeah. And legitimately was like, had a gasp moment. Like, it's been long enough for me that I forgot the plot.
Well, it was my first time watching, which is why I literally gasped. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's so good. So good. But the warehouse, I compare it to everything else, and you can just, I think the warehouse in particular shows why this movie's special if you do compare it to other things. Because a warehouse is a big, cheap, destructible location that you can do a gunfight in and not have to worry about several aspects of production insurance, property insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a natural choice for a shootout. And it also fits most plots. Hey, there's guns down at the warehouse. So it works, but I don't mean to shit on a movie that I know a few people like, but we recently watched. It was in my mind, the warehouse fight at the end of Nobody. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how different is this from Nobody, where we get CG instead of stunts, we get or stunts instead of CG, we get wides instead of cut. Yeah. And it just, I mean.
Well, to speak to that, when we discussed that movie a few weeks back, we were talking about how in our opinion, one of the things that was unsuccessful was the directing of the action sequences. And obviously John Woo was like, yeah,
And he was I want to look hard-boiled up in the John Woo filmography, because, yeah, so this tracks. So he had gotten his footing because he had done The Killer. So he had already done these 3 movies, Better Tomorrow 1 and 2 with Chow Yun-fat, as well as The Killer with Chow Yun-fat, as well as Bullet in the Head with Chow Yun-fat by the time he made Hard Boiled. So Hard Boiled was really him. He was a famous action director already. Chow Yun-fat and Tony Leung were already movie stars.
Ugh,
this was
they both are truly movie stars.
Yes, they are. Incredible. And fun thing about Chow Yun-fat, and I think, if you're of my generation, maybe you know this, because it was a piece of trivia that was bandied about when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out. But when Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out and Chow Yun-fat was cast in it, it was the first time he had ever been in a historical wuxia or sword movie. He, unlike a lot of actors in Hong Kong, had never done one. He had always been a gangster or a cop. Always.
I did not know that.
So, it was funny because people were like, oh, yeah, this is Chinese Hong Kong filmmaking. It's like, well, actually, no, most of that is, people with guns, not swords. This really made me want to watch, made me want to watch with you these 2 as well, Stephanie. And I'm going to go ahead and really recommend both of these as well. Both of which also have Chow Yun-fat in them because he's so fucking great. These are both directed by a guy named Ringo Lam, who is basically, I think Ringo Lam is the same generation of John Woo, but maybe a little older. And I think he could have had John Woo's career in an alternate universe. These are incredible. City on Fire in particular is what... here, let's see if I can do the... Am I making it in my face?
It's pretty good.
City on Fire in particular is what Reservoir Dogs is basically a remake of. It's a heist gone bad. And Full Contact just kicks much ass. But I think one of these might be my staff pick. But ain't nobody... As they say at the beginning of Hard Boiled, in maybe the coolest movie quote of all time, give him a gun and he's Superman, give him 2 and he's God.
Yeah. I know. Right when that line was spoken, I was like, okay. And here's I'm just gonna put on my seatbelt and buckle up.
And I really want to watch The Killer now, too, because The Killer is same vibe, but John Woo's a bad guy. He's an assassin.
John Woo?
I'm sorry. Chow Yun-fat's a bad guy. He's an assassin. John Woo is never a bad guy. John Woo is an assassin of your senses.
Oh.
Should we flip this light on? Or the kitchen light on? Can we try it with the kitchen light? That's nice. That's a good fill. We should use that.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all, hey, what are your other thoughts on Hard Boiled? Did you watch it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Get out. No, just joking. Did it remind you of anything else? Personally, this made me want to watch everything John Woo. I've really been wanting to rewatch Red Cliff. A brief anecdote, if you will. Red Cliff was a movie John Woo wanted to make forever. But he had become a successful Hollywood director. And Red Cliff was the first time John Woo had gone back to China to make a movie. And it was 2008. And it was his biggest budget yet, I think, for a Hong Kong production. And an incredible cast, like a who's who of Hong Kong actors, including in the lead, Tony Leung. Red Cliff is the story of basically Chinese dynastic wars and kingdoms coming together in what would become like a modern unified China, which is often the story that is told by Chinese government productions with a communist slant, but this is a Hong Kong production from Woo with just a war movie personal slant. When it came out, I wasn't sure it was ever going to get an American release, but it was talked about how John Woo was going back to China to make his biggest movie yet. And God bless, rest in peace, I Love Video in Austin, Texas. I went into I Love Video in 2008 and they had a bootleg of it. And I was still living in my first Austin apartment. I didn't know anyone. I was renting movies a lot. So I rented it. And I went home and I watched it. It was 2.5 hours long. And I know how long I've been watching it for. And I'm like, there's only 10 minutes of this movie left. Things are just ramping up to the final fight. Hopefully this isn't super rushed. And I was getting a little nervous because I was very invested, and I was like, is this going to end soon? How are they going to do an ending here? And then in giant flaming Chinese characters, it goes, to be continued. And I lost my shit because I had no idea it was a 2-part movie.
I just got chills.
I lost my shit, and it's Red Cliff Part 1 and Part 2, and they're both 2.5 hours long to make for a 5-hour epic movie. Now, Red Cliff was eventually cut down to 1 3-hour movie and released into theaters in America, where it did okay, but on the Blu-ray, in the American release, they also put both full cuts, and I have not rewatched it since, and I would love to.
That's very cool.
It's very cool. Mission Impossible 2 is incredible. I've actually never seen Ichi the Killer, but I do love Takeshi Miike. I need to watch that. Okay, great job, nerds. I actually I want to know what people's favorite Mission Impossible movies are. I was actually just talking about this on Twitter. I saw some film critic say, I don't trust you if you think the number 2 is the worst one in the franchise. And I was like, number 3 is the worst, right? And I looked and I was like, a lot of people agree with me. I thought that was very controversial because people love number 3. But they're also good. Number 2 is a remake of a movie that's back here that I don't want to go through the trouble of pulling out. Number 2 is a remake of Hitchcock's Notorious. And I swear to God, it's a great double feature. Watch Notorious and then watch MI2. It's over-the-top John Woo with a giant banging budget. It's cop versus robber, just like all of his other movies, but it's also the plot of an old Hitchcock movie. And it features, like, a joust on motorcycles. The Brad Bird one is the worst. That's right. 1 and Fallout and 3. Fair enough. That's the thing. When I say it's the worst, I'm saying it's last in my ranking of my favorite movie franchise of all time. Which Mission Impossible is my favorite movie franchise of all time.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it is. It's the best. It's pure cinema. Number 3 being last on that list does not mean that I dislike it. In fact, I love it because I love all of them because it's my favorite franchise. So no shade to any of them. I know you don't like the Brad Bird one. I know a lot of people don't like that one because they feel as though it skips from sequence to sequence. I like it. I really like it. Never been a Tom Cruise fan. Get out! I'm just joking.
I gotta be honest, when it comes to Mission Impossible movies, I close my eyes and I just see a blur.
Of all of them?
Of all of them.
Okay.
And I'm like, which is which?
So the first one's Brian De Palma.
I got it, but I don't
heist movie based on the show. Second one's John Woo adapting an old Hitchcock plot. Third one's J.J. Abrams having Tom Cruise run a lot with Philip Seymour Hoffman as a bad guy.
Okay,
That's the one that made it personal.
Yeah.
Fourth one is Brad Bird, Burj Khalifa sequence. Fifth one and sixth one enter into Ralph McQuarrie territory. And the sixth one's like... And then they're gonna go even bigger, right?
Yeah. A blur of Tom Cruise running. Well, that's the thing, is like, to speak to your point about them being great and also just a blur of Tom Cruise running, while I can't, like, break down the plot of each one or, like, differentiate them even in my mind, I have never not had fun watching a Mission Impossible movie. I've always... The thing that I remember thinking about them is not, like, the individual stories. It's just feeling like, to speak to what you were saying, it's pure cinema, is just, oh, wow, this is going to be fun. Mm-hmm. Like, as soon as it starts, I'm like, oh, there's going to be action, there's going to be, like, some adventure, maybe some romance, maybe not, doesn't matter. I know this is going to be fun. Yeah.
I love them so much. It's a good way to put it. It's just exhilarating.
Yeah. And I will say that I think it's Fallout, the scene in Dubai, is it?
That's 4. That's
4.
Ghost Protocol, the fourth one.
Oh, Ghost Protocol. Okay,
the
so
Burj Khalifa
I saw
sequence.
that in IMAX.
That sounds awesome.
And it was incredible. And that sequence where he's on the side of the building, the first thing I wanted to know was, how did they do that? They just did it. He just did it. And that's why in IMAX, when I was watching it, I wanted to vomit because I was like, this is amazing. How did they pull this off? And then I was like, tick, 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 tick. oh, he just did it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he just does these things. I mean, I should have known because it's Tom Cruise, and he's like,
Yeah. How did they... Do you know that for number 6, he just learned to fly that helicopter?
Oh, yeah.
And that for the new Top Gun movie, he just learned to fly a fighter jet.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. Okay, Tom Cruise... I know we all have different opinions on him. I think he's amazing. He has dedicated his life to thrilling us. Okay. Going back real quick to John Woo, and especially his American output, I need to watch Hard Target with JCVD, which I've never seen, which is John Woo's first U.S. movie. Mm-hmm. But I think his best movie, my personal pick for favorite Hong Kong from John Woo is Hard Boiled. I know it's basic, but it's the best. U.S. John Woo is Face Off. I just love it.
I love Face Off. I've watched that movie several times when I was growing up.
It's so good. And to your point, like in Hard Boiled, there's a moment where a guy gets shot in a shot in the chest, but he's already been beaten to a pulp, and then he has to swim, and you're like, did he just swim to the hospital?
Yeah, I 100% was like, okay, so let me get this straight. He was beaten within an inch of his life, then he was shot, then he was thrown off a bridge, then he swam to the shore, and somehow either got in a cab or walked to the hospital, and it's just like, hey, what's up?
And what I was thinking is, you're talking about a movie by the director who got mad at the studio for asking him to include science scenes for how the two swapped faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he just wanted them to wake up with each other's faces.
Yeah, you were like, here's your disbelief. Go ahead and suspend it.
Because that's another thing with, like, Hong Kong and Japanese film that I really like is, like, the
Sorry. That's a lot of people.
that they, that in... It is not as important for Asian, and I shouldn't group an entire part of the world's cinema. I will say, for Japanese and Hong Kong cinema in particular, I think South Korea adheres a little bit more to...
Realism?
Realism, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not important to rationalize how these things happen. Like Hong Kong, how are they flying through the airs fighting? How is that,
Yeah.
It happens because it looks cool.
It just does.
Yeah. What your answer
Just go
is,
with
it happens because it... Do you like the way it looks? Yes? Okay, enjoy it. Mm-hmm. We're very obsessed over here with, like, realism and... I think that...
Over here being America.
Over here being America,
yeah.
Over here in America. Well, fuck, what a great movie. I guess, should we figure out... And that was your first time, so we didn't talk about it at all. I was a little worried maybe you didn't like it. Not that I would...
Oh, no, I loved it.
Cool.
100%. I was like, I am here for this. My face was melted.
That's a good way to put it.
Awesome. Thanks to anyone who watched Hard Boiled with us this week.
Yeah.
I think it is about that time where we pick our movie club for next week.
Yes. Let's keep going. Hong Kong. We're whittling down our list. So I will try and remember what the others we talked about were and start a poll here. So vote with us.
Yes, and if you remember what was on our short list last week, please drop it in the chat. Let us know.
Yes. Well, whatever. What were some of the ones that we picked? Let's think here. The problem with Hong Kong is also not all of it's super accessible. Mm-hmm. So we may have ordered something that we're stoked about that you can't find because you have to like find some old tape of it. So I want to make sure that we can find this. Like Hard Boiled, we had to watch on YouTube, and I was surprised.
I don't remember anything either. Great job, nerds.
Well, you know what? Let's quickly cheat with the shelf, and then let's talk about the things we have missed. Now we've done Bruce Lee, and we're really we're trying to hit like we did with Japan. We're never going to be able to explore all the nuances.
The shelf. Sorry.
We'll never be able to. Oh, that's too bad, Wedge. There was an HD remaster put up on there that we watched. We
did have to.
We had to double search for it. Had to search for Hong Kong or Hard Boiled HD. Dang, I'm sorry you had to watch the DVD rip. I think what we watched was a rip of the Blu-ray from Dragon Dynasty, which was a company that put it out.
Yes, on YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. Here, I'll drop the link just in case you want to have it handy.
So for movie club, we are staying in Hong Kong cinema, right?
I would love to. And I think that what I was going to say is like with Japanese cinema, it's impossible to find the entirety. It's impossible to represent the entirety of any nation or film market's output for the past 100 years. So we're trying to throw up tent poles and capture a vibe. With Japan, that meant we kind of jumped from era to era. With Hong Kong, I would be interested to go further back. Most of my understanding of Hong Kong cinema, though, really comes from the 80s and 90s, when it's this independent hub. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like the last 2 months we've been watching a lot of, like, violence and action. And I would be very curious to know if maybe you, off the top of your head, know, like, is there, like, a great, like, family drama or romance or pure comedy?
Yeah, I think a lot of the comedy that I'm aware of is often action comedy.
Yeah.
It's Jackie and Samo. That said, let me to the shelf it real quick.
Through the shelf?
So a lot of this stuff, yes. Most of the stuff that I have here is either kung fu, gun fu, or wuxia.
Which also, I have been loving this journey and totally cool to stay on that, general. Well,
there's one that I've been trying to find forever. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can find it. It's a movie by a guy named Stanley Kwan called Rouge, which is starring Anita Mui, who is, cannot find it anywhere. Maybe on YouTube. That is like a famous romance. And I've been trying to track this one down. Stanley Kwan is the director. Let me see if any luck on YouTube. Rouge Explained, Rouge trailer, full movie, but it's a playlist where you have to watch 49 separate clips. I'm not into that.
Oh, dang, this looks good, though.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I've been wanting to watch this because it's come up in a lot of that. But I will say, if we are looking for something that is more like of a romantic vibe, then I think a natural step here would be to go to Wong Kar-wai.
Oh.
Because Wong Kar-wai wanted to be an action filmmaker. He idolized Ringo Lam, he idolized John Woo, and then he just ended up using a lot of their techniques to tell stories about broken-hearted lovers. And so,
I love that.
Fascinating thing about his movies is that a lot of the cinematography is very like experimental to like an action degree, but it's emotional realism.
I think that sounds perfect to me.
I love Wong Kar-wai very much. Oh, sorry, Wedge. Yes, Tai Chi Master and Twin Warriors. Jet Li. I would love to get into some Jet Li. Personally, I'm going to say I'm biased towards. The things that I wanted us to hit up before we ended this journey were one big Jackie Chan movie that maybe is lesser known or lesser seen, and a Wong Kar-wai. I think the ones that were on our short list last week were Peking Opera Blues, a Wong Kar-wai movie, and a Police Story.
Oh, yeah.
So, Great Job Nerds is suggesting In the Mood for Love, which is fantastic.
And that's a Wong Kar-wai?
That is Wong Kar-wai. Now, I think that I could really stand a rewatch In the Mood for Love. But I am a huge... Okay, I'm just going to tell y'all my journey with Wong Kar-wai.
Mm-hmm.
I was tasked to write a report on Wong Kar-wai's cinema in college for a class from a professor I really respected, and I wanted to do a good job. So I watched every Wong Kar-wai movie, and I took notes, and I tried to do my damnedest, and I ended up loving pretty much all of them the same. Wong Kar-wai's In the Mood for Love was the only movie out of his, I think, 8 big movies that Criterion put out. And so every other film student I was in school with would only talk about In the Mood for Love, and they were obsessed with it. And I thought that was like, that's one of his solid, but it's not his best. Y'all gotta watch. And I would be like, watch Fallen Angels, watch Happy Together. And so I have this dumb I don't know if it's bad hipster or if it's just trying to defend the oeuvre. I want to rewatch In the Mood for Love precisely because I think that at the time I was frustrated that no one was giving his other movies the time of day. And so in this moment, I'm weirdly torn. I'm like, In the Mood for Love, yes, but it's the famous one. Can we deep cut it, or do we just start there?
Well,
so I am honestly, I don't know. That's me being honest.
Maybe it comes down to, you know, kind of what sometimes the movie club pick comes down to is what is accessible.
So I would say that the big ones that I would say are the touch points of Wong Kar-wai. And it's interesting because we could also go in the wuxia direction because he did Ashes of Time, which is his wuxia movie, but it's emotional realism, not an action movie. Because my dude's always fucking genres up. Chungking Express and Fallen Angels are both fantastic. Fallen Angels is my personal favorite, but it's kind of a part two to Chungking Express. Mm-hmm. They're also all connected because Chungking Express, Fallen Angels, and 2046 center on the same characters. But In the Mood for Love is about a sci-fi writer who's writing the story that is the plot of 2046. Basically, he made In the Mood for Love where two characters are writing a story, and then he made that story as its own movie.
No, that's really cool.
And then Happy Together does not take place in Hong Kong. It takes place in Argentina, I believe, and is about a gay couple struggling with their relationship, starring Leslie Chung and Tony Leung, one of the few queer-centered romance movies from Hong Kong. Yeah. Tony Leung was reportedly furious when he signed on for it, and I hope I'm sure his mind changed because he does an amazing job in the movie, but he did not know that it was a gay love story when he signed on to do it. And it's a very hot and heavy movie. And he was apparently bothered by that at the time. Because he was worried it would compromise his gunslinging movie star identity. Yeah. And then The Grandmaster, which is Wong Kar-wai's version of Ip Man. Okay.
Historically accurate
I think more historically accurate.
More historically accurate?
That is his newest movie. I kind of want to dive back into... And the shitty thing here is that I used to have my Wong Kar-wai box set around, and now they upgraded it on Criterion. So I want to find it on. I want to buy that Criterion box set come this summer.
Okay, well, I will say Happy Together has been on my list to watch for a long time.
God, these are all so good.
In the Mood for Love sounds amazing, and I've never seen it. But when it comes to Wong Kar-wai, like, you clearly know way more than me. I am pretty in the dark here.
Here's the weird thing with his filmography is that he starts in the late 80s with As Tears Go By, which is, and then Days of Being Wild in 1990, both of which are fantastic movies about young lovers and ennui. And then he truly hits his stride with Chungking Express, which is like an early masterpiece. Which is just, it's three separate interlocking stories, kind of an anthology of some romantic, some sad, in the city of Hong Kong, about Hong Kong life. Follows that up with Fallen Angels, which is kind of an extension of the Chungking Express world. Then Happy Together, which stands alone as a queer romance, not set in Hong Kong. And then this dude is like one of the most celebrated filmmakers in his hemisphere. Then he gets these two stars, Maggie Cheung and Tony Leung, and makes In the Mood for Love, which is his international release. So the interesting thing here is I do want to do In the Mood for Love, but it's almost like then we're seeing this guy at his most refined. Mm-hmm. So I will ask you out there, would you, and then after In the Mood for Love, it's 2046 and My Blueberry Nights, which is his U.S. movie in English, where a lot of that romantic dialogue translates and doesn't feel quite so, it feels cornier. It wasn't well received. So my votes here are Chungking Express, In the Mood for Love, or Happy Together. Because I think they represent different things. Chungking Express, it's been a while since I've watched any of them. To me, In the Mood for Love takes place in a hotel that is mostly like a chamber piece. And Chungking Express is more like the freewheeling streets and bars and restaurants of Hong Kong. And Happy Together is like a separate thing entirely.
I mean, those all sound great. I'm happy to check on the chat or throw up a quick.
Well, so that's where I'm trying to provide as much context as possible, and then let's pull it out, right? and then let's see where we can watch it. Now I know that everything is streamable on the Criterion Channel because they have the rights to all of this, and I believe that HBO might also have. Oh shit, that's different.
Oh, that's something I was looking up.
That's great. It's funny. I like that HBO autofills as a writer's program for them.
No, that's just my Google search.
Come on. So, sorry, y'all. I'm not meaning to be all down. Dang. Lady parade outside.
I know. Lady parade, soft waves in their hair, going out to party, shake their derrieres.
I think they're going home.
No. Well, never mind.
I think they're going home. Dang, how hard is it to watch these? Criterion Channel's got all of them. Which I don't have Criterion Channel, but we can easily get a trial. Let's see, Chunking Express, that's the only place to watch it. I'm betting that's the same for the other two as well. Just doing a quick check here. And what was the other one? Happy Together. Streaming. I don't think that's the same. Okay, nope. Got taken off of there. HBO Max has In the Mood for Love. It looks like. Yeah, okay. And then Happy Together. All right, so our easiest bet is In the Mood for Love for accessibility. God, I wish these. But if you are willing to do a, free trial of Criterion to watch one of the other two, we are as well. Mm-hmm. So 2046 is awesome. You shouldn't watch, in my opinion, shouldn't watch it until you've already watched In the Mood for Love, because 2046 is a sci-fi movie that is the love story that is being written by the sci-fi author in the Mood for Love. Also, there's a brief aside either in 2046 or in the Mood for Love about taking a secret that is your whisper, and whispering it into a tree and corking that tree up and letting your secret grow. That is part of the plot of Ashes of Time. Wong Kar-wai is, I think, the only art filmmaker that has his own cinematic universe.
That is really cool.
Everything connects.
Excuse me, I just choked on my own.
Everything connects. I would honestly love to rewatch all of his flicks, but that is its own journey, and I cannot promise they will all be easy to find.
You can probably take that poster down. Or leave it up. Why not? It's just hanging on the wall.
Oh, the hardball poster? I guess we are done talking about it.
That poster's great. I did not know that was the graphic that you had found for hardboiled.
I think that's the official poster, yeah. I'll pop it.
Okay. Oh. I was trying to figure out where I'm going.
You're just flipping everybody off.
That is my pointer finger.
If you're just joining us, we got a poll going for what is going to be our movie club pick for next week. We're going to dive into Wong Kar-wai. I love that because it does get us out of the action. Mm-hmm. But so much of Hong Kong cinema is driven by action, but I too want to get into the comedy and lushness.
Yeah.
Another one that I almost recommended that you and I can watch is this one that I just found, which is a gender-bending comedy called He's a Woman, She's a Man. Mm-hmm. This is a comedy without action in it. And it's a little more modern as well.
Oh, this seems fun. We should watch this week.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that one seemed like a good time. Weirdly, I am mostly wanting to rewatch Chungking Express, but I don't, like... I also know that I want to buy the Wong Kar-wai box set at the Criterion sale this summer, mm-hmm. and I'm frustrated because it's not more accessible in a streaming way. So if we were doing this in July, I could scoop the set. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to make our viewers all buy a set or get a subscription either.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. All right, y'all. We've only got one vote.
Well, do you want to throw out staff picks while we give a little more time for...
Yeah, totally.
Maybe some votes?
Okay, sure. What's your staff pick of the week?
Oh, man. Okay, so... I know I was like, oh, book smart. Oh, no, After Hours. And then I was like, oh, Christopher Guest.
Wedge, go up. It should be at the very top. It should be a little drop down. It looks like it's part of the chat. It says current poll, WKW. Should be able to get up there that a ways.
Gosh. I mean, I guess I gotta go with After Hours.
That's great.
Yeah.
A great movie. After Hours. Ready for you. After Hours. Where all those Muppets too. When your room looks kind of weird. And you wish that you weren't there.
Just close your eyes and make believe.
And you can be everywhere.
Happy babies.
Need to sing for you. Nothing there is come true. I like adventure. I like romance. I like great jokes. Animal dance. Okay, we're winding it. We're winding it down.
Yes, we are approaching the end of hour 3.
Oh, are we?
Yes.
Dang, we really went for it today. Hey, thanks to everyone who tuned in. It looks like we had, a really good group of people.
Yeah, thank you
here today.
Thank you to all of our regulars here at the video store. Thank you to anyone who is new, or just hopped in at the end of the stream here. This is our Tuesday night stream here on UltraLoop called You Are in a Video Store. It is a place for people who miss hanging out in video stores and talking about movies.
That's right. And it looks like In the Mood for Love won for the movie club. That's awesome. It seems to be the most accessible movie of our list. To our ever-present, evergreen theme that physical media is important, because as we've seen, it's often very hard to figure out how to watch a movie without having a physical copy. So since we don't want to force people to get a Criterion Channel trial membership to watch Chungking Express, we're going to do In the Mood for Love. It seems to be the crowd favorite. It's on HBO Max. And also, it's a masterpiece. A Wong Kar-wai rules. So let's watch it. And if you get to other Wong Kar-wai stuff, we could do an entire Wong Kar-wai week. But
and a nice community pick coming in from Wedge there at the end with Tai Chi Master.
Nice.
As well.
Thank you, Wedge. Good call. I'm going to go ahead and drop... I don't think we've ever had a better representation of... Earlier, we had a new viewer ask us what genres we liked. I honestly don't think we've had a better representation of everything being the answer to that. Mm-hmm. Movie club pick is In the Mood for Love. Steph's pick, After Hours. And my pick is Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. Because
great.
You know what, guys? It was really, really great.
It was.
Let's write those down so I don't forget.
I love that. Wrapping up the show here... you can follow us at You Are in a Video Store on Instagram, or subscribe. That's what we say here.
Subscribe on UltraLoop. We have great streams several nights out of the week, including Rez and Penny tomorrow. And I'm going to try and do a retro stream on Thursday. We'll see. I know I overpromise and underdeliver on that every week. But also Alon is doing a lot of great stuff, and we're going to keep that train a-going. Yes,
and I have been one of your hosts / store clerks, Stephanie Thoreson. You can follow me on Instagram at Flock of Schmeagles, or if you see me hanging out in a chat on Twitch, I am DJ Stephanie Michelle. You can also go to my website, stephaniethorson.com, if you want to learn more about me, what I do with comedy, acting, writing, etc.
Yo, nice plug, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and drop all of our websites, because we remastered all 3 of our websites, including the company that puts this on, Baby Lion. So if you want to go check those out, please do. Otherwise, find us also on Instagram at You Are in a Video Store. And you can find me at Protextor. You can also find archival episodes on YouTube / Baby Lion if you want to watch old episodes of this stream. With that, we humbly invite you to watch In the Mood for Love. In the Mood for Love with us. There's a lot of prepositions in that.
In the Mood for Love with us. With watch the movie with us. We invite you to watch the movie
In the Mood for Love with us at home. I've been your other host, Protextor. Thanks for tuning in. Pathos, Wedge, Tai Chi Master in there as well. Holden Wook, great job, nerds. To our new viewers tonight, Gray Knight, thank you for diving in with some great questions.
That was fun, having some questions.
It was. I liked the randomness of it.
Yeah, me too.
Kept us on our toes.
Yeah.
Good stream, everybody. Thanks for being here. We got to close up shop.
The sun is going down.
The sun is going down for us, and you need to tuck yourselves into bed. You've been watching You Were in a Video Store right here on UltraLoop. Watch more movies. Be kind, rewind. Black Lives Matter. Take care of each other, and get home safe.
Bye.
You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. Cooper to Leone, Kobushi and Suzuki. These movies take you to New Orleans. We recommend it. Yeah. Never pretentious. Yeah. It's never ending. Yeah. Just where our head is. Yeah. It's one Korea, Slaughterhouse 5. Those Hollywood nights or Hong Kong on fire. I could watch it all night. Let's stop and rewind. Watch it again. You strapped in, ain't no stopping the ride. That's Ginger Rogers the time. Swing down to Broadway and lights. Mike, Tarkovsky, Almodovar, Von Sternberg, Dietrich, Garbo, Garfield, Heathcliff, with Transformers over on the 80s TV show. You need a hand, we can reach it. Move in silence like Bernal Melia's Mishu. Spending afternoons with Maya, then watch Freddy Got Fingered. It's all love for that silver screen, baby, what that TV do. And we here every week too, so don't you touch that dial, bruh. We ain't skipping the previews. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video store. You are in a video store. Say you are in a video. You are in a video. You are in a rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Welcome to the rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop. Yeah, welcome to the rental shop.
We'll watch them.